Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Dragon Sage, who became a duelist Naruto x Gardner x Alexis Rhodes Yu-Gi-Oh! But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Dimensional Convergence. The fabric between worlds tore like wet paper. Naruto Uzumaki tumbled through swirling cosmic debris, his body racked with pain as reality itself seemed to splinter around him. The battle with Momoshiki had taken an unexpected turn when the Otsutsuki had activated some unknown space-time technique as a final, spiteful act. "I'll drag you into oblivion with me, Uzumaki," had been Momoshiki's final words before the dimensional rift had opened beneath Naruto's feet. Chakra burned through Naruto's network like molten metal as he desperately tried to stabilize himself within the void. Golden energy from his perfected Sage mode and the Nine Tails chakra swirled protectively around him, fighting against the dimensional current that threatened to tear him apart. "Kurama," Naruto called to his Biju partner. "What's happening? This isn't like any space-time ninjutsu I've seen before," the fox growled within his mind. "He's trying to scatter your essence across dimensions. Focus your chakra." Naruto pulled on every reserve of power he possessed. Dragon Sage mode, his newest and most mysterious transformation, discovered only during the final confrontation, responded instinctively. Ethereal draconic energy flared around his body, azure scales briefly materializing along his forearms as he made a final desperate attempt to maintain his cohesion. Then everything went black. Gardner hurried along the rain-slicked streets of Domino City, cursing under her breath as she clutched her umbrella against the strengthening wind. The storm had appeared out of nowhere. Dark clouds gathering with unnatural speed over the city center. "Great, just great," she muttered, dodging a puddle. "The one night I stay late at the game shop." A flash of lightning split the sky, followed immediately by a thunderclap so powerful it rattled windows. She stumbled, nearly losing her footing on the wet pavement. The air seemed to thicken, Evie with static electricity and something else, something that raised the hair on her arms despite the humidity. That's when she saw it, a swirling vortex of energy opening like an eye in the center of Domino Park. What in the world? Against her better judgment, she found herself moving toward the phenomenon. The few pedestrians still on the street were running in the opposite direction, but something compelled her forward. It reminded her of the ancient magic she'd witnessed around Yugi and the Millennium Puzzle, yet somehow different, wilder, more primal. The vortex pulsed, expanding and contracting like a heartbeat. Then, with a final violent surge, it expelled someone, before collapsing in on itself with a thunderous boom. She was knocked backward by the shockwave, her umbrella torn from her grasp and sent cartwheeling down the street. When she regained her footing, she saw a figure lying motionless in the crater where the vortex had been. "Hey," she called, approaching cautiously. "Are you all right?" The figure didn't respond. Drawing closer, she could make out a young man with spiky blonde hair, dressed in what looked like some kind of orange and black combat gear, now tattered and scorched. Strange marks adorned his cheeks, 3 lines on each side like whiskers. He couldn't be much older than she was, perhaps 19 or 20. She knelt beside him, placing 2 fingers against his neck. A pulse, strong and steady, thankfully. She shook his shoulder gently. "Can you hear me? You need to wake up." The young man's eyelids fluttered, then opened to reveal startlingly blue eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. He moved with lightning speed, rolling away from her touch and into a defensive crouch, scanning his surroundings with trained precision. "Where am I?" he demanded, his voice raspy but alert. "Who are you?" She raised her hands in a placating gesture. "I'm Gardner. You're in Domino City. I just saw you fall out of that strange light. Are you hurt?" The blonde stranger's eyes narrowed, confusion evident in his expression. "Domino City? I've never heard of it." His gaze darted around, taking in the urban landscape, the neon signs, the modern buildings. "What country is this?" "Japan," she answered, increasingly concerned about his mental state. Could he have amnesia? "Listen, I should probably call an ambulance." "No," he interrupted firmly. "No authorities." He straightened up, wincing slightly as he did so. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I need to figure out what happened and how to get back. Back where? Naruto hesitated, clearly debating how much to reveal. Konoha, the Hidden Leaf Village. Chi frowned. I've never heard of it. Is that in Japan? Before Naruto could answer, a bolt of pain shot through him, causing him to double over with a grunt. Chi instinctively moved to help, catching him before he could collapse. Whatever's going on, you're injured and it's pouring rain. My apartment is just a few blocks from here. Let me help you get somewhere safe, then we can figure things out. Naruto looked at her intently, as though assessing not just her words but her character. Whatever he saw must have satisfied him because he gave a small nod. Thank you, T. Gardner, he said formally. I accept your help. As they made their way slowly through the rain, neither noticed the Shad OWY figure watching from a nearby rooftop, eyes fixed on the spot where the dimensional rift had opened and closed. Chi's apartment was modest but neat, a one-bedroom in a building that had seen better days but was clean and secure. She helped Naruto to her sofa, where he sat rigidly, still scanning the unfamiliar environment. I'll get you a towel and something dry to change into, Chi offered, disappearing into her bedroom. Naruto closed his eyes, turning his attention inward. Kurama, are you there? Silence greeted him, which was concerning. He could still feel the Nine Tails chakra within him, but it was muted somehow, as if the Biju was unconscious or dormant. When he tried to access his own chakra, he felt a strange resistance, like his energy was adapting to different physical laws. Here, Chi said, returning with a towel and some clothes. These might be a bit small, but they belong to my ex-boyfriend, and he was pretty tall. Naruto accepted them with a grateful nod. Is there somewhere I can? Bathrooms through there, she pointed. Do you need help? Those injuries look bad. I heal quickly, he assured her, which wasn't an exaggeration. Even with Kurama dormant, his Uzumaki vitality and residual Biju chakra accelerated his recovery. In the bathroom, Naruto stripped off his ruined clothing and examined himself in the mirror. The physical damage was already fading, cuts sealing, bruises yellowing then disappearing, but it was the changes to his chakra system that concerned him. The network seemed to be realigning itself, adapting to this world's different energy patterns. After cleaning up and changing into the borrowed clothes, jeans and a simple black t-shirt that was indeed a bit snug across his shoulders, Naruto returned to find Tea setting a cup of tea on the coffee table. I thought you might be hungry, so I made some instant ramen, she said, gesturing to the steaming cup beside the tea. It's nothing special, but it's warm. Naruto's expression brightened immediately. Ramen. You have ramen here. Chi couldn't help smiling at his sudden enthusiasm. It's pretty much everywhere in Japan. You act like you've never seen it before. No. Naruto paused, realizing he needed to be careful about what he revealed. This woman had no reason to trust or believe him, yet she'd brought a complete stranger into her home. Thank you. It's my favorite. As Naruto devoured the ramen with obvious appreciation, Chi observed him quietly. There was something oddly familiar about him, though she was certain they'd never met. Perhaps it was the determined set of his jaw, or the way his eyes seemed to hold both warmth and wariness simultaneously. It reminded her a bit of Yugi when the spirit of the pharaoh took control, someone carrying a heavy burden but facing it with unwavering resolve. So, she began when he'd finished eating, are you going to tell me what really happened back there? That wasn't just some random lightning strike. I've seen enough weird stuff around duel monsters to recognize when something supernatural is going on. Naruto set down his empty cup, studying her with renewed interest. Duel monsters. The card game, Chi explained. Then noted his blank expression. You've really never heard of it. It's huge worldwide, especially here in Domino. She reached for her bag and pulled out her own modest deck. Spreading a few cards on the table, Naruto leaned forward, examining them with curiosity. These creatures, he murmured, picking up a dragon card. They remind me of summons. The moment his fingers touched the card, something extraordinary happened. A faint blue glow emanated from the card, and Naruto felt a pulse of energy, not unlike chakra, but different somehow, responding to his touch. He dropped the card in surprise. Did you see that? He asked sharply. Chi nodded, eyes wide. The card, it lit up when you touched it. That's not normal, even for dual monsters. Cautiously, Naruto picked up the card again. Blue Eyes White Dragon, according to the text. This time, he was prepared for the energy pulse. It felt almost like the card was alive, resonating with his Dragon Sage chakra. I think, he said slowly, I should explain what happened. But it's going to sound impossible. She leaned back in her chair with a wry smile. Try me. My best friend houses an NT Egyptian pharaoh spirit in a mystical puzzle and regularly saves the world through card games. My threshold for impossible is pretty high. Naruto blinked, then let out a startled laugh. Fair enough. He set the card down carefully. I'm from another world, another dimension. Where I'm from, we don't have technology like yours, but we have chakra, a form of energy we can manipulate for various techniques. I'm what's called a shinobi, a ninja. Chi's expression remained neutral, neither believing nor dismissing him. I was in a battle with a powerful enemy, Naruto continued. He used some kind of technique to tear open a hole between dimensions. I tried to counter it, but he gestured vaguely. Here I am, and the glowing energy I saw around you when you appeared. That was my chakra. I have special abilities. Even among my people, I contain a powerful entity called the Nine-Tailed Fox, and I've mastered various forms of nature energy, including something called Dragon Sage Mode. At the mention of dragons, the card on the table pulsed again, as if responding to his words. I think, Naruto said, eyeing the card, that whatever brought me here changed how my chakra works. It's responding to these cards somehow. Chi picked up the Blue Eyes card, examining it thoughtfully. These aren't just pictures, you know. According to ancient Egyptian history, or asked the version I've learned through Yugi, dual monsters were real creatures from a shadow realm. The game is based on ancient rituals where sorcerers would summon these beings to battle. That sounds similar to our summoning techniques. Naruto noted, we form contracts with various animal species and can call them to aid us in battle. A sudden thought struck him, and he reached into his pocket. Relieved to find a small scroll had survived the journey. Unfurling it on the table, he bit his thumb hard enough to draw blood. What are you? Chi began, alarmed. Just testing something, Naruto assured her, smearing a small amount of blood on the scroll. In his world, this would have activated a basic summoning jutsu. Here, however, the blood merely soaked into the paper, with no mystic symbols appearing. It doesn't work, he murmured, more to himself than to T. But maybe, he picked up the dragon card again, channeling a tiny amount of chakra into it as he would with a jutsu. The card's image seemed to ripple, and for a brief moment, Chi could swear she saw the dragon's eyes move, tracking Naruto's face. That's not possible, she whispered. Only people with millennium items or other ancient magic can bring cards to life, and even then, only in shadow games. Naruto set the card down gently. I think my chakra, especially my Dragon Sage energy, resonates with these cards. They're responding to me. Chi sat back, processing this information. Part of her wanted to dismiss his wild story as the ravings of a concussed mind, but she'd seen too much in her adventures with Yugi to discount the extraordinary. And there was something undeniably sincere about Naruto's blue eyes that made her want to believe him. So what now? She asked finally. If you're really from another dimension, how do you plan to get back? Naruto's expression grew somber. I don't know yet. First, I need to understand this world better and figure out why I was brought here specifically. There's usually a reason when dimensions intersect. At least, that's been my experience. Chi glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. Well, dimensional traveler or not, it's late, and you've been through a lot. You can take the couch tonight, and tomorrow we can start figuring things out. I know someone who might be able to help, my friend Yugi. If anyone would know about interdimensional travel, it would be him or the pharaoh. Naruto nodded gratefully. Thank you, Chi. Not many people would help a stranger with such an unbelievable story. She smiled, rising to fetch bedding from the closet. Let's just say I've learned to trust my instincts about people, and something tells me you're one of the good ones, Naruto Uzumaki. As Chi prepared the couch, neither noticed the Blue Eyes White Dragon card still on the table. Its eyes following Naruto's movements with an intelligence that no mere hologram should possess. Dreams of serpentine dragons and ancient stone tablets filled Naruto's sleep. He saw massive creatures soaring through skies torn by dimensional rifts, felt the pulse of chakra flowing between worlds, and heard a deep, rumbling voice calling to him from across the void. He woke at dawn, a habit ingrained from years of shinobi training. For a moment, disorientation gripped him as he took in the unfamiliar surroundings, the modest apartment, the sounds of an urban landscape stirring to life outside. The absence of Konoha's familiar chakra signatures. Then yesterday's events rushed back, and he sat up, running a hand through his disheveled blonde hair. His body had healed completely overnight, though his chakra still felt strange, more attuned to this world's different energy patterns. Moving quietly to avoid waking T, he approached the window, taking in his first clear view of Domino City. The urban landscape sprawled in all directions, dense with buildings taller than any in Konoha. Vehicles moved along roads in organized patterns, and pedestrians hurried along sidewalks. It reminded him somewhat of the technology he'd seen in the Land of Snow, but more advanced, more integrated into daily life. "It's a bit overwhelming at first," came T's voice from behind him. Naruto turned to find her standing in the bedroom doorway, already dressed in a simple blue skirt and white top. "You're up early," he observed. She shrugged. "Dance practice. I usually go to the studio before class." "You're a dancer." A small smile touched her lips. "Trying to be. I'm working toward a scholarship to study in New York." She hesitated. "Though I'm thinking I'll skip practice today. Helping an interdimensional ninja figure out how to get home seems more important." Naruto returned her smile. "I appreciate that, but don't put your life on hold for me. I've survived worse than being stranded in a strange dimension." She studied him for a moment, noting the confident set of his shoulders and the calm assessment in his eyes. Despite his outlandish story and circumstances, there was something reassuringly capable about him. "How about a compromise?" she suggested. "I'll go to my morning practice, then meet you at Kame Game Shop, that's Yugi's grandfather's store. I'll call ahead and let them know you're coming." Naruto nodded. "That works. I should explore a bit anyway, get a feel for this world." She hesitated, then went to her purse and pulled out some money. "You'll need this, and take my spare key so you can come back if you need to." Naruto accepted both with a small bow. "I'll repay your kindness. Just try not to do anything too ninja-like in public," she said with a hint of teasing. Domino City has seen some strange things, but a guy walking on buildings might attract unwanted attention. After a quick breakfast and directions to both the game shop and the best ramen place in the area, information Naruto particularly appreciated, they parted ways on the street outside T's apartment building. "Remember, Kame Game Shop at noon," she reminded him. "And Naruto, be careful. If what you told me about your arrival is true, you might not be the only one who noticed that dimensional rift." With that sobering thought, she hurried off toward her dance studio, leaving Naruto to begin his exploration of this strange new world. The morning passed in a blur of sensory input as Naruto wandered Domino City's streets. He absorbed everything with a shinobi's trained observation, the technology, the social patterns, the subtle details that defined this world. Televisions displayed news and advertisements in store windows. People walked with devices pressed to their ears, talking to unseen others. Vehicles of various sizes transported people and goods with no visible power source beyond the mysterious Enji. Naruto had glimpsed in his own world's more advanced nations. Yet for all the differences, there were striking similarities. People here still hurried to work, still shopped for food, still acted with the familiar patterns of human society. Children still played in parks, laughing and running without concern for dimensional boundaries or chakra networks. Most fascinating to Naruto were the numerous signs of this dual monsters game T had mentioned. Advertisements featuring elaborate monsters and magicians decorated billboards. Shops displayed cards and devices for playing the game. Several times, he passed groups of people engaged in duels, either with simple cards laid on tables or using sophisticated devices that projected holographic images of the monsters. Following T's directions, Naruto eventually found himself at a modest ramen shop. The familiar smells instantly transported him back to Ichiraku's in Konoha, and for a moment, a wave of homesickness threatened to overwhelm him. Pushing it aside, He entered and ordered using some of T's money, taking a seat at the counter. "You're new around here," observed the chef, an older man with a friendly face as he placed a steaming bowl before Naruto. "Is it that obvious?" Naruto asked, breaking his chopsticks apart with practiced ease. The chef laughed. "I know all my regular customers, and I never forget a face. Especially one that lights up at the sight of good ramen like yours just did." Naruto grinned, taking his first bite. The flavor was different from Ichiraku's, less miso, more soy, but delicious nonetheless. "This is excellent," he said sincerely. "You know your ramen," the chef nodded approvingly. "So, what brings you to Domino?" "The tournament." "Tournament?" Naruto perked up, sensing useful information. "The Regional Duel Monsters Championship starts next week. Duelists from all over are arriving early to scout the competition. From your reaction, I'm guessing you're not a duelist." Naruto shrugged noncommittally. "Just visiting for now." As he ate, Naruto listened to the chef chat with other customers, gathering information. The tournament was apparently a major event, with significant prize money and, more importantly, qualification spots for something called Battle City, which seemed to be an even more prestigious competition. Finishing his meal and leaving a generous portion of T's money as payment, Naruto continued his exploration, now with a specific destination in mind. If this tournament was attracting duelists from across the region, it might be an opportunity to learn more about the game that seemed to resonate with his chakra. As he walked, a strange sensation prickled along his senses, the feeling of being watched. Naruto casually turned down a less crowded side street, then suddenly increased his pace, ducking around a corner and scaling a fire escape with silent efficiency. From his elevated position, he scanned the street below, shinobi instincts fully engaged. There, a figure in a long coat slipped into the alley, head turning as they searched for their vanished quarry. Naruto dropped silently behind the person, closing the distance in a flash. "Why are you following me?" he demanded, voice low and controlled. The figure whirled, revealing a man in his 30s with slicked back hair and narrow, calculating eyes. He wore an expensive-looking coat with an unusual pin on the lapel, a stylized eye that reminded Naruto uncomfortably of the Rinnegan. "Impressive," the man said, showing no fear despite being caught. "Most people never notice surveillance, let alone manage to reverse it." "Answer the question," Naruto pressed, maintaining a non-threatening but ready stance. The man smiled thinly. "My organization takes interest in anomalies. Last night, our instruments detected an energy surge unlike anything we've recorded. You emerged from that surge." He produced a business card, offering it to Naruto. "I represent collectors of rare and unique items, Mr. Uzumaki," Naruto supplied, taking the card without relaxing his vigilance. Naruto Uzumaki. "Mr. Uzumaki, my employers would be very interested in discussing your sudden appearance in our city. Particularly," the man's eyes flickered to Naruto's hands. "The unusual energy you channel." Naruto's eyes narrowed, so they had detected his chakra, or at least its effects. "I'm not interested in being anyone's research subject or collectible. We offer generous compensation for cooperative parties," the man continued smoothly. "And we have resources that might help someone in your displaced situation." That confirmed it. They knew he wasn't from this world. Naruto maintained a neutral expression, mentally calculating his options. Direct confrontation seemed unwise when he still understood so little about this world's power structures. "I'll consider it," he said finally, pocketing the card. "How do I contact you if I'm interested?" "The number on the card," the man replied. "Ask for Mr. Tanaka. But don't wait too long. My employers aren't the only ones who noticed your arrival." With that cryptic warning, the man bowed slightly and turned to leave. "One more thing," Naruto called after him. "These employers of yours, do they have a name?" Tanaka paused. "We are simply known as the collectors." "Good day, Mr. Uzumaki." Naruto watched him go, then examined the business card. It bore only a phone number and the same stylized eye symbol, no company name or address. Slipping it into his pocket, he checked the time on a public clock. And realized he should head toward the game shop to meet T and this person who might have insights into his situation. Kame Game Shop stood out from the surrounding buildings with its colorful facade and distinctive turtle-shaped sign. As Naruto approached, the door opened, and a short elderly man in overalls and a bandana emerged, sweeping the entrance. "Ah!" the old man exclaimed upon noticing Naruto. "You must be the young man T called about. I'm Solomon Muto, but everyone calls me Grandpa. Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto introduced himself with a respectful bow. "Thank you for seeing me, Muto-san." The old man's eyes twinkled. "Such polite manners. Come in, come in. Chi and Yugi should be here soon." The interior of the shop was a treasure trove of games of all types. Though Duel Monsters clearly held the position of honor with several display cases dedicated to cards and accessories, Solomon led Naruto to a counter where a particularly ornate card was displayed under glass. "Do you play Duel Monsters, young man?" Solomon asked. "I'm new to it," Naruto admitted. "Where I'm from, we have different games." "Ah, a newcomer. Well, you've come to the right place. No better teacher than myself, except perhaps my grandson." Solomon's chest puffed with pride. "Yugi is the king of games, you know." Before Naruto could respond, the shop door opened, and T entered. Accompanied by a young man with the most distinctive hairstyle Naruto had ever seen, spiky black hair with magenta edges and blonde bangs. "Naruto, you made it." T greeted him warmly. "This is Yugi Muto, my friend I told you about." Quote, Yugi stepped forward with a friendly smile, extending his hand. "Nice to meet you, Naruto. Chi's told me some interesting things about you." As their hands clasped, Naruto felt an immediate jolt of energy, similar to what he'd experienced with the dragon card, but stronger, more focused. Simultaneously, he noticed a golden pyramid-shaped pendant hanging from Yugi's neck on a chain, emitting a faint aura that his chakra-sensitive senses could detect. Yugi's eyes widened slightly, and Naruto caught a subtle shift in his demeanor, his stance straightening, his gaze becoming sharper, more penetrating. When he spoke again, his voice had deepened almost imperceptibly. "You carry a powerful energy," Yugi observed, releasing Naruto's hand. "Unlike any I've encountered before." Chi glanced between them. "So you can sense it too." "I wasn't sure if I imagined what happened with the card last night." Solomon looked intrigued. "What's this about cards reacting?" Chi quickly explained what had happened when Naruto touched her Blue Eyes card, causing Solomon's eyebrows to rise progressively higher. "Most fascinating," the old man murmured. "And you say you're from elsewhere?" "Another dimension," Naruto confirmed, seeing no reason to prevaricate with people who clearly had experience with the extraordinary. "Where I'm from, we use chakra, life energy, to perform techniques. But since arriving here, my chakra seems to interact with your cards in unusual ways." Yugi, or perhaps not entirely Yugi, Naruto was beginning to suspect, touched his pyramid pendant thoughtfully. "The Millennium Puzzle allows me to connect with Duel Monsters' spirits in the Shadow Realm. What you're describing sounds similar, yet distinct. Maybe we should test it," Chi suggested. "Properly, I mean, with a real dual disc and everything." Solomon brightened. "An excellent idea, and as it happens, I have a spare dual disc and several starter decks. Consider it a welcome gift for our dimensional visitor." Before Naruto could protest, the enthusiastic shop owner bustled off to collect the items. Chi touched Naruto's arm reassuringly. "Don't worry, dueling isn't that complicated once you understand the basics. And we'll start slow." Yugi nodded. "Chi's right, and I'm curious to see how your chakra how it interacts with the cards in a structured duel." Solomon returned with a sleek device that Naruto recognized from his morning observations, a dual disc, used to project holographic images of the monsters during games. Along with it came several packages of cards. "These are basic starter decks," Solomon explained, spreading them on the counter. "Usually, duelists build personalized decks over time, but these will serve for learning purposes. Choose whichever appeals to you." Naruto examined the packages, each featuring different monster types and strategies according to Solomon's explanations. His hand hovered over one labeled Dragon's Fury, then moved to another called Shinobi Strike. The coincidence of finding a ninja-themed deck seemed too perfect to ignore. "This one," he decided, picking up the Shinobi Strike deck. "Excellent choice," Solomon approved. "Now, Let's move to the back room where there's space to duel properly. Yugi, perhaps you could use one of your early decks to avoid overwhelming our new friend. As they relocated to a more spacious area behind the shop, Solomon and T took turns explaining the basic rules of dual monsters to Naruto. Monster, spell, and trap cards, attack and defense positions, life points and battle damage. The fundamentals weren't unlike tactical considerations in ninja combat, Naruto realized, and he absorbed the information quickly. Ready to try a practice duel? Yugi asked when the explanations concluded. He had swapped his championship deck for a simpler one, though Naruto suspected it would still be formidable. Naruto strapped on the dual disc, immediate. Lee noting how the device seemed to hum against his skin, responding to his chakra. Ready as I'll ever be. Duel, they declared simultaneously, each drawing their initial hand of cards. Naruto looked at the 5 cards he'd drawn, recognizing monster and spell types from the explanation. As his fingers touched each card, he felt tiny pulses of energy, as if the cards were awakening to his touch. You can take the first move, Yugi offered. Naruto nodded, considering his options. I'll place one monster face down in defense position, he declared, setting the card on his dual disc. The whole graphic projection of a concealed card appeared on the field. And I'll set 2 cards face down. 2 more concealed cards appeared behind his monster. That ends my turn. Yugi nodded approvingly at the cautious opening. My turn. I draw. He added a card to his hand, then made his move. I summon Celtic Guardian in attack mode. A holographic elf warrior materialized on the field, sword at the ready. Celtic Guardian, attack his face-down monster. The elf charged forward, slashing at Naruto's concealed card. The card flipped to reveal Stealth Ninja, a shadowy figure that deftly avoided the sword strike. Stealth Ninja's defense is higher than your Guardian's attack, Naruto pointed out, recalling the mechanics T had explained. That means you take the difference as damage, right? That's correct, Yugi confirmed, as his life point counter decreased. Well played for your first move. I also activate a trap card, Naruto continued, revealing one of his face downs. Ninja's counterattack. When my ninja monster successfully defends, your attacking monster is destroyed. The holographic stealth ninja threw a kunai that pierced the Celtic Guardian, shattering it into pixels. As the trap card activated, Naruto felt a surge of chakra flowing through him into the card, enhancing the holographic effect. The kunai seemed more solid, the impact more realistic than the other holograms he'd observed. Yugi's eyes narrowed, and T gasped softly. They had all seen the difference. Fascinating, Solomon murmured from the sideline. The holographic system is responding to him differently. Yugi recovered quickly. I place 2 cards face down and end my turn. As the duel progressed, Naruto grew more comfortable with the mechanics, finding parallels between dueling Street Rated G and battle tactics from his world. More notably, each card he played seemed to draw on his chakra, creating more vivid holograms and sometimes effects that went beyond what the projection system should be capable of. Scattered cherry blossom petals from a ninja's technique that actually carried a faint scent, or the whisper of wind from a summoned whirlwind that ruffled actual papers on nearby shelves. By mid-duel, Naruto had summoned his deck's most powerful monster, Dragon Shinobi Commander, a warrior with draconic armor and abilities. As the creature materialized, Naruto felt a powerful resonance with his dormant dragon sage chakra. The hologram's eyes gleamed with awareness, its movements more fluid than simple programming should allow. Your energy is giving life to the cards, Yugi observed. His voice now definitely deeper, his stance more regal. Naruto was certain now that another consciousness shared Yugi's body, just as he shared his own with Kurama. Not simply activating the shadow realm as my Millennium Puzzle does, but bridging some gap between your world's energy and our cards. Naruto nodded, feeling the connection himself. In my world, we form contracts with animal summons, creatures we can call to aid us in battle. This feels similar, but different. Like the cards are conduits rather than contracts. The duel concluded with Yugi's narrow victory, impressive given Naruto's complete inexperience with the game. As they deactivated their dual discs, T approached with eyes wide in excitement. That was amazing, Naruto. The way the holograms respond. Ed to you, I've never seen anything like it, even in shadow games. Indeed, Solomon agreed. Young man, you have a natural talent for dueling, but more importantly, a unique connection to the cards themselves. Yugi, or rather, the presence sharing Yugi's body, fixed Naruto with a penetrating gaze. I believe your arrival here is no accident. The energy you call chakra, particularly this, Dragon Sage, power you mentioned, seems specifically attuned to certain aspects of our world's magic. You think I was brought here for a reason, Naruto concluded. The boundaries between dimensions do not break by chance, Yugi confirmed. Something, or someone, wanted you here. A chilling thought struck Naruto. The man who was following me earlier, he called himself a representative of the collectors. He knew about my arrival, about my energy. Chi's expression grew concerned. The collectors, I've never heard of them. Solomon stroked his beard thoughtfully. Nor have I, but Domino City has no shortage of organizations interested in the power of dual monsters. Some less scrupulous than others. You should be cautious, Yugi advised. Your abilities would be valuable to many people, and not all have good intentions. Naruto nodded grimly. He was no stranger to being targeted for the power he contained. Any advice on what I should do next? The regional tournament starts next week, Solomon mused. It would be an excellent opportunity for you to learn more about dueling and perhaps make connections that could help you understand why you're here. But he doesn't have an official duelist ID or ranking. Chi pointed out. How would he enter? Solomon's eyes twinkled mischievously. Leave that to me. I still have friends at the Gaming Commission. We can register you as a visiting duelist from. Where did you say you were from? Konoha, Naruto supplied. The Hidden Leaf Village. Perfect. Exotic enough to explain any unusual techniques or card interactions, Solomon declared. Meanwhile, you should practice dueling and build a proper deck that complements your unique energy. Chi brightened. I can help with that. And you can stay at my place until we figure things out. That's very generous, Naruto said gratefully. I don't want to impose. Nonsense. Chi waved away his concern. Consider it my contribution to interdimensional diplomacy. Yugi, now seemingly back to his normal self, his voice lighter and his stance less commanding, smiled warmly. We'll all help however we can, Naruto. If you really have been brought here for a purpose, then discovering that purpose is important for both our worlds. As they discussed plans for the coming days, none of them noticed the small drone hovering outside the shop's window, its camera focused on their conversation. Transmitting to an unseen observer who watched with growing interest as Naruto Uzumaki, dimensional anomaly and emerging duelist, began to find his footing in a strange new world. The next few days fell into a rhythm as Naruto adapted to life in Domino City. Mornings were spent exploring the city and learning its geography, afternoons dedicated to dueling practice with Yugi, or other friends they introduced him to, and evenings often found him at T's apartment, refining his deck and strategy while they talked about their respective worlds. Chi proved to be just a gracious host but a valuable friend. Her perspective on dueling differed from Yugi's more technical approach. She saw it as an expression of the duelist's heart and spirit, a philosophy that resonated with Naruto's own understanding of chakra as an extension of one's life force and will. It's not just about having powerful cards, she explained one evening as they sat at her small kitchen table. Sorting through cards Solomon had helped Naruto acquire. It's about building a deck that feels right to you, that reflects your personal style and strengths. Naruto nodded, examining a dragon-type monster card that had caught his attention. In my world, every ninja develops their own fighting style and signature techniques. No two shinobi fight exactly the same way, even if they use similar jutsu. Exactly, Chi agreed enthusiastically. The best duelists have decks that are extensions of themselves. She paused, watching as Naruto placed the dragon card in what was becoming his main deck. You're drawn to both ninja and dragon cards, aren't you? Yeah, Naruto admitted. The ninja cards feel familiar, like home. But the dragon cards, he hesitated, trying to articulate the connection. They resonate with something deeper. This, Dragon Sage mode, I discovered during my final battle. It's still new to me, still mysterious. But when I touch these cards, I feel like I'm understanding it better. She rested her chin on her hand, studying him with genuine curiosity. Tell me more about your world, About being a ninja. It sounds so different from what we call ninjas here. Naruto's expression softened as memories of home surfaced. In my world, shinobi are peacekeepers, protectors. We're trained from childhood in chakra techniques, combat skills, strategy. A smile touched his lips. Though I was never the best student. Too impatient, too eager to prove myself. That's hard to believe, seeing how quickly you're picking up dueling, she remarked. Naruto laughed. I've always learned better by doing than by studying. My sensei, Kakashi, used to say I had more determination than common sense. His expression grew more somber. A lot has happened since those days. Wars, losses, hard-won victories. Quote, Chi reached across the table, briefly touching his hand in a gesture of understanding. You miss them, your friends, your teachers. Every day, Naruto acknowledged. But worrying won't get me home. Action will. Chi smiled at that. You remind me a bit of Joey, one of our friends you haven't met yet. He's all about charging forward too. I look forward to meeting him. Naruto said sincerely. Everyone's been so welcoming here. They continued sorting cards, but Chi found her gaze repeatedly drawn to Naruto's focused expression, the way his blue eyes lit up when he discovered a card combination he liked, the unconscious grace with which he moved. For someone who claimed to have been clumsy as a student, his movements now held a fluid precision that spoke of hard-won mastery. There was something compelling about him, not just his unusual abilities or extraordinary origin, but a core of unshakable determination and genuine kindness that reminded her of what she valued most in her closest friends. Yet he was distinctly different too, more battle-hardened than Yugi, more openly confident than Joey, with a quiet wisdom that belied his youthful appearance. Chi, Naruto's voice broke through her thoughts. You okay? You spaced out for a second. Heat rushed to her cheeks as she realized she'd been staring. Sorry, just thinking about strategy for your first tournament match. Quote, Naruto grinned, accepting her explanation without question. With all the help I'm getting, I should at least make it past the first round. Chi's smile returned. I think you'll surprise everyone, including yourself. The morning of the regional tournament arrived with perfect weather, clear skies and a gentle breeze carrying the promise of early summer. Domino City Convention Center buzzed with activity as duelists from across the region gathered, trading cards and stories, sizing up competition, and making last-minute adjustments to their decks. Naruto stood at the entrance, taking in the scene with a mixture of excitement and focused calm. A week of intensive practice had transformed him from complete novice to competent duelist, though he harbored no illusions about winning the entire tournament. His goals were more measured. Advance far enough to gain visibility, learn more about this world's connection to his own, and perhaps court the attention of someone with knowledge that could help him return home. Nervous? Asked T, appearing beside him. She looked different today, dressed more formally than her usual casual attire, her short brown hair neatly styled. Not nervous, Naruto replied honestly. But focused. This feels like preparing for a mission. Chi smiled. Just remember what we practiced. Your deck is solid, and you have a natural instinct for the game. Trust that, and try not to accidentally enhance the holograms too obviously, added Yugi, joining them with his grandfather in tow. We don't want to attract too much unwanted attention. Naruto nodded, touching the deck holster at his hip. Inside was the custom deck he'd built with their help, a unique combination of ninja-themed cards and dragon support. Crafted to work with his particular chakra resonance. The dual disc on his arm, modified slightly by Solomon to better accommodate his energy, felt like an extension of himself after days of practice. Registration closes in 15 minutes, Solomon reminded them. You should get your tournament ID and first round assignment. As they made their way through the crowd to the registration desk, Naruto sensed multiple eyes following him, not just curious duelists noting an unfamiliar face, but more focused, evaluating gazes. His shinobi instincts, honed through years of combat and espionage, identified at least 3 individuals taking particular interest. A woman in a museum curator's badge near the artifact display, a man in an expensive suit by the VIP entrance, and a hooded figure lingering near an emergency exit. None matched the Mr. Tanaka, who had approached him earlier in the week, but Naruto suspected they might be connected to the mysterious collectors, or other Organizations who had detected his dimensional arrival. At the registration desk, a tournament official checked the paperwork Solomon had helped prepare, listing Naruto as a visiting duelist from an obscure village called Konoha. The official raised an eyebrow at the unfamiliar origin but processed the entry without comment, issuing Naruto a tournament ID card and his first-round assignment. "You're in Block C, Duel Arena 5. The official explained. "First round begins in 30 minutes. Good luck." Naruto thanked the man and rejoined his friends, showing them his assignment. Block C is competitive but not the toughest bracket. Yugi assessed. "A good place to start. Let's check out your first opponent," he suggested, leading the way to the tournament brackets displayed on large screens throughout the convention center. Naruto's first match would be against someone named Ryota Kajiki, apparently a duelist who specialized in water-themed cards. As they studied the brackets, a voice called out to them from behind. "Yugi Muto, didn't expect to see you here when you're already qualified for Battle City." They turned to find a tall young man with blonde hair approaching, accompanied by a shorter boy with wild black hair partially hidden under a beanie. "Joey, Tristan," he greeted them warmly. "We're here supporting Naruto. He's entering the tournament." Joey Wheeler sized Naruto up with friendly curiosity. "New duelist. Haven't seen you around before." "Visiting from abroad," Naruto replied, offering his hand. "Naruto Uzumaki." Joey's handshake was firm and enthusiastic. "Joey Wheeler, runner-up at Duelist Kingdom. This here's Tristan Taylor, our cheerleader." "Hey," Tristan protested. "I prefer moral support specialist." Naruto liked them immediately. Joey reminded him somewhat of Kiba, brash, loyal, with a competitive spirit barely contained beneath the surface. Tristan had something of Shikamaru's laid-back pragmatism, though perhaps with more energy. "So you're taking on the regional." "Huh," Joey continued. "Not bad for a first tournament. What kind of deck you running?" "A custom build," Naruto answered vaguely, aware that revealing too much about his strategy before matches began would be unwise. "Combination of ninja techniques and dragon power." Joey's eyes lit up. "Dragons, my red eyes black dragon is the cornerstone of my deck. Abe we'll face off later in the tournament." "I'd like that," Naruto said sincerely. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the convention center's speaker system. "Attention duelists. First round matches will begin in 15 minutes. Please report to your assigned arenas." "That's my cue," Naruto said. "Any last advice?" Yugi smiled encouragingly. "Remember, the heart of the cards is about trust, in your deck and in yourself." T gave his arm a supportive squeeze. "You've got this. We'll be cheering from the sidelines." With a grateful nod to his new friends, Naruto headed toward Arena 5. Mentally preparing himself for his first official duel. As he walked, he sensed rather than saw one of the observers, the hooded figure, detach from their position and begin moving in a parallel path. Maintaining distance but clearly tracking him. "Let them watch," Naruto thought grimly. "If they're looking for a demonstration of what I can do, I'll give them one, on my terms." Arena 5 was one of several duel spaces set up throughout the convention floor, surrounded by seating for spectators. Already waiting there was a tanned, muscular man with wild hair held back by a bandana. Dressed in a sleeveless wetsuit-like outfit adorned with seashell necklaces. He grinned as Naruto approached. "You must be Uzumaki," the man called in a booming voice. "Ryota Kajiki, ocean duelist extraordinaire. Ready to be swept away by the tide of defeat." Naruto couldn't help returning the grin as he took his position opposite Ryota. The man's exuberance reminded him pleasantly of Might Guy. Looking forward to the match, Kajiki-san. A tournament official stepped between them. "Duelists ready. Activate your duel discs and begin when ready. Standard tournament rules apply." Both men activated their duel discs, the holographic projectors humming to life as they drew their initial hands. "Duel," they declared simultaneously. Ryota took the first turn, playing a water base D-field spell that transformed the arena floor into a holographic ocean. "Hope you can swim, Uzumaki. My ocean field strengthens all my water monsters by 30%. Naruto felt his chakra responding to the duel's energy. The holographic water appearing almost tangible as it lapped at the edges of the platform. Consciously, He restrained his energy from enhancing the effect too noticeably, recalling Yugi's warning. The duel progressed rapidly, with Ryota summoning powerful sea creatures that took advantage of the water-rich field. Naruto countered with ninja monsters that used stealth and misdirection, gradually establishing a defensive perimeter while he gathered resources for larger plays. From the sidelines, Chi watched with growing excitement as Naruto held his own against the experienced ocean duelist. "He's doing it," she whispered to Yugi. "All that practice is paying off." Yugi nodded, his expert eye catching the subtleties of Naruto's strategy. "He's playing patiently, letting Ryota commit resources before countering. Very shinobi-like, economy of force until the decisive moment." The turning point came when Ryota, confident in his field advantage, overextended himself to summon his ace monster. A massive leviathan that towered over the arena. The legendary fisherman commands the depths. Nothing in your deck can stand against him. Naruto remained calm, even as the imposing sea monster loomed before him. Impressive creature, he acknowledged. But the ocean's surface isn't the only battlefield. He activated a trap card. Ninja smoke screen negates your attack and allows me to summon a ninja monster directly from my deck. A cloud of holographic smoke engulfed the arena, and when it cleared, a new monster stood on Naruto's field, Shadow Dragon Ninja, a sleek W. Area with scales gleaming along its armor. "My ninja gains attack points equal to the level of your attacking monster," Naruto explained. "And when he destroys a monster in battle, I can summon another ninja directly from my hand." Ryota's confident expression faltered as he realized the tide had turned. "Impossible. No ninja should be able to defeat my ocean lord. That's the thing about ninjas," Naruto replied with a knowing smile. "We specialize in the impossible." What followed was a cascade of carefully planned moves that Naruto had been setting up throughout the duel. Each ninja's special ability triggered another effect, building momentum until he finally revealed his trump card, Dragon Sage Warrior, a powerful monster that gained strength from every ninja in his graveyard. As the holographic warrior materialized, Naruto felt a profound connection to his own Dragon Sage chakra. The hologram shimmered with unusual clarity, its eyes seeming to fix on Ryota with intelligent purpose. The spectators murmured in appreciation at the exceptional quality of the projection. Dragon Sage Warrior, attack the legendary fisherman. Spiraling Dragon Strike. The warrior launched forward, chakra visibly swirling around its weapon as it struck the sea monster. The collision generated a shockwave that rippled through the holographic ocean with such realism that several spectators gasped and stepped back. The fisherman shattered into pixels, and Ryota's life points plummeted to 0. "And that concludes the match," announced the tournament official. "Winner, Naruto Uzumaki." Ryota stared in disbelief for a moment before breaking into a hearty laugh. "Well played, Land Dweller. Never seen ninja cards used quite like that before." He crossed the arena to shake Naruto's hand. "Good luck in the next round. You've got talent." "Thanks for the match," Naruto replied sincerely. "Your ocean strategy is impressive." As the duelists parted ways, Chi, Yugi, and the others rushed to congratulate Naruto on his first tournament victory. "That was amazing," Chi exclaimed, her eyes bright with excitement. "The way you turned his advantage against him. Nice moves for a rookie," Joey agreed, giving Naruto an approving thump on the back. "That Dragon Sage card is something else, almost looked real for a second there." Naruto caught Yugi's subtle warning glance and nodded imperceptibly. He needed to be more careful about how much chakra he channeled into the cards. "Second round doesn't start for 2 hours, Solomon informed them, consulting the tournament schedule. "Time to rest and prepare." As they moved away from the arena, Naruto noticed that all 3 observers he'd identified earlier were now in different positions, continuing their surveillance. More concerning, they had been joined by a 4th, a woman with long black hair and ancient Egyptian-styled jewelry who watched him with particular intensity. Unlike the others, she made no attempt to hide her interest. When their eyes met across the convention floor, she inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement before turning and walking toward a restricted area of the convention center. "Yugi," Naruto said quietly. "The woman by the Egyptian artifact display, do you know her?" Yugi followed his gaze and stiffened noticeably. "That's a Shizu Ishtar. She's the curator of the ancient Egyptian exhibit that's here for the tournament." He hesitated. "She also possesses a millennium item, the Millennium Necklace, which grants visions of the future. And she's very interested in you, T added, having noticed the exchange as well. That can't be coincidence. Naruto nodded thoughtfully. If this woman could truly see the future, she might have insights into his situation that others lacked. I think I should speak with her. He decided. I'll come with you, Yugi offered. A Shizu can be cryptic, but she's helped us before. As they prepared to approach the Egyptian curator, Naruto felt a strange resonance from his deck, specifically, from the Dragon Sage cards he'd connected with most strongly. Something about this tournament, this gathering of duelists and ancient powers, was awakening energies that bridged the gap between his world and this one. Whether that would help him find a way home or draw him deeper into this world's conflicts remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. His journey as the Dragon Sage duelist was just beginning. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Rules of Engagement. Dawn painted Domino City in watercolor hues of amber and rose. Naruto sat cross-legged on the roof of T's apartment building, eyes closed in meditation. The unfamiliar urban soundscape, vehicles humming along streets below, air conditioning units churning on neighboring buildings, the distant wail of emergency sirens, created a discordant symphony utterly unlike Konoha's morning chorus of birdsong and rustling leaves. Yet within this chaos, he found a different kind of peace. His chakra flowed more easily now, adapting to this world's energy patterns. 5 days had passed since the regional tournament's first round, where his victory against Ryota Kajiki had earned him advancement and unwanted attention. 5 days of intensive training, cultural acclamation, and increasingly disturbing dreams of dragons and ancient temples. Kurama, he called internally, reaching for his Biju partner. The fox's presence remained distant, dormant, not gone. Naruto could still feel the Nine-Tails chakra integrated with his own, but unresponsive, as if hibernating while adjusting to this dimension's different spiritual resonance. A gentle knock interrupted his meditation. T had climbed the access ladder to the roof, carrying 2 steaming cups. Thought you might want some tea, she said, settling beside him without disturbing his posture. You've been up here since before sunrise. Naruto opened his eyes, accepting the offered cup with a grateful smile. Old habits. In Konoha, dawn was always the best time to train without interruption. She studied him over the rim of her cup. Morning light caught in her chestnut hair, creating auburn highlights. Is it working? The meditation, I mean. Somewhat. Naruto sipped the tea, jasmine, delicate and floral, nothing like the robust green tea of his homeland. My chakra's stabilizing, adapting. But I still can't access certain abilities. Like this Dragon Sage mode you mentioned. Naruto nodded. It was my newest transformation, discovered during my final battle. I barely understood it before being pulled here. His eyes tracked a flock of pigeons swooping between skyscrapers. Now it feels dormant, but restless. Like it's waiting for something. She hugged her knees to her chest, morning chill raising goosebumps on her bare arms. The cards respond to it though. Everyone at the tournament saw how your holograms seemed more real. That's what worries me. Naruto rotated his wrist, examining the dual disc Solomon had modified for him. The device integrated surprisingly well with his chakra flow, almost like a shinobi tool. Drawing attention before understanding this world's power structures is dangerous. Speaking of attention, she said, pulling a newspaper from behind her back. You made the local dueling column. She handed him the paper, open to a section titled, Duel Monsters Quarterly. A small article highlighted promising newcomers in the regional tournament, with Naruto's name prominently featured. Mysterious newcomer impresses at regionals. Among this year's fresh faces, none has generated more buzz than Naruto Uzumaki, a previously unknown duelist claiming origins from a remote village called Konoha. Uzumaki's innovative fusion of ninja-themed tactics with dragon power cards dismantled veteran duelist Ryota Kajiki's ocean strategy with surgical precision. Tournament officials confirm Uzumaki has no prior recorded matches in any sanctioned events, raising K's tie-ons about where this talented dark horse has been hiding. Speculation runs from international underground dueling circuits to private training under an unnamed master. Asterisk. Great, Naruto muttered, folding the paper. Exactly the kind of attention I didn't want. Chi bumped his shoulder playfully. Look on the bright side. If you're going to be stuck here for a while, having a reputation as a rising duelist could open doors. Money, connections, information. You sound like a shinobi strategist, Naruto observed with a hint of admiration. I'm a dancer who's spent years watching my friends navigate tournament politics. She stood, brushing dust from her skirt. Speaking of which, we should get moving. Yugi's expecting us at the game shop, and afterward, we're meeting a Shizu at the museum. Naruto nodded, draining his tea before rising in a single fluid motion. The meeting with the Egyptian curator had been arranged through Yugi's grandfather after the tournament. A Shizu Ishtar had specifically requested Naruto's presence to discuss matters of dimensional significance, a phrase that simultaneously offered hope and triggered his shinobi instincts for caution. One last thing before we go, T said, pulling something from her pocket. I got you this. Figured it might be useful. She handed him a sleek black device, a cell phone, similar to the one she carried. It's prepaid, so no contract needed, she explained as Naruto examined it curiously. I've programmed my number, Yugi's, and the game shop. Just in case we get separated. Naruto turned the phone over in his hand, genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness. Thank you, T, for everything, the shelter, the guidance. He gestured vaguely at the cityscape. All this would be overwhelming without your help. A faint blush colored T's cheeks as she averted her eyes. What are friends for? Now come on, Dimension Hopper. You've got a busy day ahead. Came game shop buzzed with unusual activity. A.D. Delivery truck had arrived with new stock, and Solomon Muto was directing the placement of boxes with the authority of a general commanding troops. Joey and Tristan had been conscripted as manual labor, much to their vocal dismay. Careful with those booster cases. Solomon barked as Joey struggled with a towering stack of boxes. Limited edition Dark Magician holographic variants don't grow on trees. Neither do my back muscles. Joey grumbled, staggering under the weight. Tristan snickered from behind his own, smaller stack. Maybe if you spent less time dueling and more time at the gym. I'll show you gym when I drop these and bench press you instead. Boys, Solomon interjected with practiced patience. Less threatening, more carrying. The bell above the door chimed as T and Naruto entered, pausing at the chaotic scene. Perfect timing, Joey called out, his face barely visible behind the boxes. Extra hands. She rolled her eyes but moved to help, taking several boxes from Joey's precarious stack. Naruto quickly assessed the situation and created 3 shadow clones without thinking, each grabbing boxes from the overwhelmed teenagers. Silence fell over the shop. Did he just? Tristan began. Multiply. Joey finished, jaw hanging open. Solomon's eyes widened behind his glasses, while T winced at Naruto's instinctive use of jutsu. Ah, Naruto said, sheepishly as his clones efficiently moved boxes to their designated locations. I should have mentioned I can do that. That is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Joey exploded, dropping his remaining boxes with a crash that made Solomon yelp in dismay. How do you do that? Is it some kind of hologram? Hidden mirrors. Naruto's clones finished their task and dissipated in puffs of smoke, further intensifying the stunned reactions. It's a technique from my home. Shadow Clone Jutsu creates physical duplicates that can perform tasks independently. Your home must be amazing, Tristan marveled, poking the space where a clone had stood. It's different, Naruto acknowledged, exchanging glances with T. They had agreed to gradually introduce the truth of his origins to their wider circle of friends. But this accidental revelation accelerated the timeline. Solomon cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue this conversation upstairs, away from potential customers. Yugi is waiting in the living room. The group followed Solomon to the Muto family's living quarters above the shop. Yugi was seated at the dining table, surrounded by cards he was sorting into protective sleeves. He looked up as they entered, his expression brightening at the sight of Naruto and T. There you are. I was beginning to. He paused, noting the others' stunned expressions. What happened? Naruto just created copies of himself out of thin air. Joey exclaimed, gesturing wildly. Like actual physical duplicates. Yugi's eyes widened fractionally, but his reaction was more measured than the others. I see. I guess we're having that conversation sooner than expected. Chi took a seat beside Yugi. They were bound to find out eventually. Naruto isn't exactly inconspicuous. Find out what? Tristan demanded, looking between them suspiciously. Naruto remained standing, arms folded across his chest as he leaned against the wall. After days of secrecy, there was something liberating about the prospect of transparency. I'm not from your world. I come from a different dimension where people harness internal energy called chakra to perform techniques like the shadow clone jutsu you just witnessed. Silence stretched for several heartbeats. Another dimension, Joey repeated flatly. Like aliens. Not exactly, Yugi intervened. More like parallel world. Remember how the Millennium items connect to the Shadow Realm. Naruto comes from a different plane of existence altogether. Joey and Tristan exchanged glances, their skepticism palpable. Prove it, Tristan challenged. Do something else. Dimensional. Naruto considered for a moment, then raised his hand. Chakra swirled visibly in his palm, condensing into a spiraling blue sphere. This is called Ras Engen, a concentrated chakra technique that can drill through solid rock. The glowing orb illuminated their awestruck faces, casting strange shadows across the room as it rotated with gathering intensity. After a few seconds, Naruto allowed it to dissipate, the energy harmlessly dispersing into the air. That was not a hologram, Joey whispered, his skepticism evaporating. Told you, he said with satisfaction. But why are you here? Tristan asked. And why Domino City of all places? Naruto shook his head. I didn't choose to come here. A battle with a powerful enemy tore open a dimensional rift. As for why this specific world, he glanced at the cards spread across the table. My chakra, especially something called Dragon Sage Mode, seems to resonate with your duel monsters cards in unusual ways. We've seen it firsthand during his duels, Solomon confirmed, settling into an armchair. The holograms become more vibrant, more realistic when he plays certain cards. Which is why we need to be careful. Yugi added, Naruto's abilities could attract dangerous attention in our world. Too late for that, Chi interjected, explaining about the newspaper article and the observers at the tournament. Joey whistled low. Man, you've been here what, a week? And already got mysterious organizations tracking you. That's gotta be some kind of record. Naruto shrugged, a half smile lifting one corner of his mouth. Being a target isn't exactly new for me. Well, now you've got backup, Joey declared, thumping his chest. Nobody messes with my friends. Tristan nodded firmly. Count me in too. Interdimensional ninja or not, you're one of us now. Warmth spread through Naruto's chest at their immediate, unhesitating acceptance. It reminded him powerfully of his friends back home. Sakura's fierce loyalty, Shikamaru's reliable support, Lee's enthusiastic friendship. The pang of homesickness that followed was bittersweet. Thank you, he said simply, meaning it deeply. Yugi rose from the table, gathering the cards he'd been organizing. Now that everyone's on the same page, we should prepare for your meeting with Ishizu. She specifically requested to see your deck, Naruto. My deck? Naruto questioned, pulling the cards from his holder. What would she want with these? Ishizu has connections to ancient Egyptian magic and can sometimes glimpse the future with her Millennium necklace. Solomon explained. If anyone can provide insight about your situation, it's her. Besides, Yugi added, your second tournament match is tomorrow. Your deck could use some final adjustments based on what we observed in your first duel. They spent the next hour reviewing Naruto's strategy, with each friend offering suggestions from their unique perspectives. Joey emphasized power plays and comeback potential, while Yugi focused on balanced resource management. Chi, surprisingly, had the most insightful comments about psychological impact, using certain cards to project confidence or create misdirection. Your opponent isn't just playing against your cards, she explained as they discussed a particular combo. They're playing against their perception of you. Use that. Spoken like a true shinobi, Naruto noted with approval. As they worked, Naruto observed the easy camaraderie between these friends, the teasing, the inside jokes, the shorthand. Communication developed through shared experiences. It struck him how similar it felt to planning missions with Team 7 or strategizing with the Konoha 11. Different world, different circumstances, BU. Chi friendship operated by universal principles. By mid-afternoon, they had refined Naruto's deck into a more coherent strategy that played to his strengths. The core remained his ninja and dragon cards. But they had incorporated support cards that enhanced his ability to adapt mid-duel, a reflection of his unpredictable fighting style. "One last thing before we meet Ishizu," Solomon said, disappearing briefly into a back room. He returned carrying a small wooden box with intricate carvings. "I've been saving this for a special occasion." Opening the box revealed a single card resting on velvet lining. "Legend of the Dragon Sage," Solomon announced proudly. "An ultra-rare card from the Ancient Legends expansion. Only 5 were ever printed." Naruto carefully lifted the card, immediately feeling an intense resonance with his dormant Dragon Sage chakra. The illustration depicted a robed figure surrounded by ethereal dragons, channeling energy between realms. Its effect text described the ability to synchronize dragon and warrior-type monsters for combined attacks. "I can't accept this," Naruto protested, recognizing its likely value. "It's too valuable." "Nonsense." Solomon waved away his concern. "I've had this card for years, waiting for the right duelist. The moment I saw you play, I knew who it was meant for." Deeply moved, Naruto bowed formally. "Thank you, Muto-san. I'll honor this gift." As his fingers closed around the card, a brief flash of energy pulsed through his chakra network. For an instant, so quick he might have imagined it, Naruto glimpsed a stone temple. Hieroglyphics glowing with golden light, and massive dragon silhouettes circling overhead. Then the vision vanished, leaving only a lingering sensation of ancient power. "Did you feel that?" Yugi asked sharply, the Millennium Puzzle glinting at his chest. "A vision," Naruto confirmed quietly. "Something about a temple, and dragons." Solomon's expression grew serious. All the more reason to speak with Ishizu without delay. The Domino Museum of History's special exhibition hall had been transformed into a showcase of ancient Egyptian artifacts, centered around a collection of stone tablets depicting what appeared to be primitive versions of duel monsters. Security guards stationed at intervals maintained a respectful distance from their small group, apparently instructed to grant them privacy. Ishizu Ishtar awaited them beside a particularly massive tablet showing a pharaoh locked in mystical combat with a high priest. Her traditional Egyptian dress and gold jewelry created a striking contrast with the modern museum setting, as if she herself were an artifact from another time. The Millennium Necklace gleamed at her throat, catching light in hypnotic patterns. "Welcome, Naruto Uzumaki," she greeted in a melodious accent, her penetrating gaze seeming to look through rather than at him. "I have been expecting you since before your arrival in our dimension." Naruto maintained a neutral expression, though his senses remained alert. "You know who I am." "The necklace shows many paths through time," Ishizu confirmed, gesturing gracefully toward her millennium item. "Your crossing between worlds created ripples that could not be ignored." Her attention shifted briefly to Yugi and the others. "Thank you for bringing him, Pharaoh." This meeting was foreseen. Yugi straightened almost imperceptibly, and Naruto noted the subtle shift that indicated the ancient spirit had taken control. "Your message suggested urgency, Ishizu. What have you discovered?" Instead of answering directly, Ishizu turned and walked toward a cordoned-off section of the exhibition. "Please, follow me. What I must show you is not for public display." Beyond the barrier lay artifacts that appeared older, more primitive than those in the main exhibition. Faded papyrus scrolls in climate-controlled cases, fragments of stone with partial inscriptions, tarnished metal objects of unclear purpose. Ishizu stopped before a particular glass case containing scroll fragments. These were discovered last month in a previously unexplored chamber beneath the Valley of the Kings. Their essence was not recorded in any known archaeological catalog. The fragile papyrus contained illustrations that made Naruto's breath catch. Though rendered in ancient Egyptian artistic style, they early depicted humanoid figures manipulating energy that resembled chakra. Some wielded what looked like elemental techniques, while others summoned creatures through hand signs unmistakably similar to jutsu. "That's impossible," Naruto whispered, leaning closer to the glass. "These show shinobi techniques." "Not shinobi as you understand them," Ishizu corrected. "But yes, the similarity is undeniable. We believe these depict the guardians of an ancient temple dedicated to what the texts call the boundary dragons, beings that existed between dimensions, maintaining the walls between worlds." T stepped forward, squinting at the faded hieroglyphics. "What happened to them?" They vanished during the Shadow Wars, when the Egyptian sorcerers first imprisoned the Shadow Realm's power within the Millennium items. Ashizu moved to another case containing fragments of a stone tablet. This partial record suggests a schism. Some temple guardians believed the shadow magic threatened dimensional stability, while others sought to harness it. The pharaoh studied the artifacts with intensity. You believe these ancient guardians were connected to Naruto's world? Not directly, Ashizu replied. But their techniques, what you call chakra manipulation, appear to have originated from the same source. The boundary between dimensions has always been thinner than most realize. She led THM to a final display, a reconstructed altar with dragon motifs curling around its base. At its center rested a depression shaped like a card. This, Ashizu said solemnly, is what called to you across dimensions, Naruto Uzumaki. The altar of convergence, where the guardians would commune with the boundary dragons. Naruto felt an unmistakable resonance from the altar, his dragon sage chakra stirring in response. It's pulling at my energy, he confirmed. Like it recognizes me somehow. Ashizu nodded as if this confirmed her theories. The ancient texts speak of a cycle. Every 1,000 years, the boundaries between worlds thin, allowing energies to intermingle. During these periods, individuals with particular spiritual sensitivity may cross between realms, either by accident or design. And you believe I arrived during such a cycle? Naruto asked. I believe you were drawn here deliberately, Ashizu corrected. The Millennium Necklace shows fragments of possible futures, and in many of them, your presence prevents a catastrophe involving the merging of dimensions. Great, Joey muttered from behind them. Another world-ending crisis. Must be Tuesday. Despite the gravity of the situation, Naruto felt a smile tug at his lips. Joey's irreverent commentary reminded him powerfully of Kiba's gallows humor before dangerous missions. These boundary dragons, Naruto said, refocusing on Ashizu. Could they be connected to my Dragon Sage mode? I believe so, Ashizu confirmed. The texts describe guardians who could channel draconic energy to strengthen the barriers between worlds or temporarily cross them. In your dimension, this ability may have evolved differently, manifesting as the power you call Dragon Sage mode. And in our world, the pharaoh added thoughtfully, it manifests through dual monsters cards, particularly dragon types. Ashizu gestured toward Naruto's deck. May I see the cards that resonate most strongly with your energy? Naruto hesitated only briefly before retrieving his deck, selecting several cards that had demonstrated unusual responses to his chakra, including the legend of the Dragon Sage card Solomon had gifted him. He placed them on a nearby examination table. Ashizu studied them without touching, her Millennium Necklace gleaming as she passed her hand over each card. Yes, she murmured, these contain echoes of the ancient power. Particularly this one. She indicated the legend card. Where did you acquire this? It was a gift from Muto-san, Naruto explained, glancing at Solomon. Found it years ago in an antiquities shop in Cairo. Solomon elaborated. The owner claimed it was based on a legend predating the Shadow Games. Ashizu nodded slowly. The card itself is modern, but the image and concept it represents are ancient. It serves as a focus for your energy, a bridge between your power and our world's magic. Can it help me return home? Naruto asked, the question that had lingered since his arrival finally voiced directly. A shadow passed over Ashizu's face. The pathways between dimensions are complex. Opening one without proper understanding could damage both realms. She met his gaze directly. And according to my visions, your presence here may be necessary to prevent a greater disaster. She placed a supportive hand on Naruto's arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. What kind of disaster? The details remain unclear, Ashizu admitted. But organizations in our world have detected the dimensional fluctuations and seek to exploit them. Your encounter with the representative of the collectors was only the beginning. Naruto's eyes narrowed. You know about that. The Millennium Necklace reveals fragments of significant paths, Ashizu explained. Your confrontation with their agent created ripples in possible futures. She gazed distantly, as if seeing beyond the museum walls. They are not the only ones interested in dimensional energy. Others watch from shadows, some with resources and influence that extend globally. So what should I do? Naruto asked pragmatically. Keep participating in tournaments while these organizations circle closer. For now, Yes, Ashizu confirmed. Your participation in the dueling circuit serves two purposes. It helps you better understand how your chakra interacts with our world's magic, and it keeps you visible, making it harder for these groups to act against you covertly. Public figure as protective strategy, Chi murmured. Smart. Additionally, Ashizu continued, the upcoming Battle City tournament will gather many individuals with connections to ancient magic. The answers you seek may be found there. The pharaoh nodded thoughtfully. Kaiba has been acquiring rare and powerful cards for months in preparation for Battle City. It's possible he's encountered artifacts related to these boundary dragons without realizing their significance. Seto Kaiba, Ashizu agreed, is another thread in this tapestry. His technological innovations have unknowingly amplified the magical properties of dual monsters, creating systems that respond to energies beyond his understanding. Like how the dual discs react to my chakra, Naruto observed. Precisely. Ashizu returned his cards, her fingers brushing his momentarily. As they touched, another vision flashed through Naruto's mind, a massive white dragon. With blue eyes battling alongside him against shadowy adversaries, energy flowing between them like a completed circuit. From Ashizu's subtle intake of breath, he suspected she had shared the vision. The connection grows stronger, she murmured. You must proceed carefully, but with purpose. Continue your tournament path while we decipher more of these ancient texts. The meeting concluded with arrangements for future communication through Solomon, who had archaeological connections with the museum. As they prepared to leave, Ashizu drew Naruto aside. One final warning, she said softly, ensuring only he could hear. The women drawn to your path each carry fragments of the knowledge you seek. Trust your instincts with them. Before Naruto could question this cryptic statement, she turned away, disappearing among the ancient exhibits like a ghost returning to its tomb. Late afternoon sunlight gilded Domino City's skyline as they emerged from the museum, each lost in thought about the revelations within. The weight of interdimensional responsibility settled heavily on Naruto's shoulders, a familiar burden in unfamiliar circumstances. Well, Joey broke the contemplative silence, stretching dramatically. That was suitably cryptic and ominous. Anyone else hungry? She rolled her eyes. How can you think about food after what we just learned? Apocalyptic revelations make me hungry, Joey defended. Besides, Naruto's got a big match tomorrow. He needs proper nutrition. Food does sound good, Naruto admitted, realizing he hadn't eaten since morning. The Demency. Onal Traveler might have extraordinary abilities, but his stomach remained decidedly human in its demands. They settled on a burger restaurant near the city center, claiming a corner booth away from other patrons. As Joey enthusiastically described the menu to Naruto, these burger things are like the ramen of meat sandwiches. She noticed a striking blonde woman seated at the bar, occasionally answering their way with calculated casualness. Don't look now, she murmured, but I think my Valentine is watching us. Joey's head swiveled instantly. Where? I said don't look, she hissed, kicking him under the table. Ow, geez. Sorry for existing, Joey grumbled, rubbing his shin. Who's my Valentine? Naruto asked quietly, using a shinobi technique to observe reflections in the Resta. Urant's glass dividers rather than turning directly. Professional duelist, Yugi explained. Ranked in the continental top 20. She competed at Duelist Kingdom alongside us. And has a thing for Joey, Tristan added with a smirk. Does not, Joey protested, his face reddening. She's good, Naruto assessed, noting the woman's poised confidence and the way she subtly monitored their table while appearing engrossed in her drink. Professional level situational awareness. She arched an eyebrow. Is that your ninja analysis? Just observation, Naruto replied with a slight smile. In my world, reading people's body language and intentions can mean the difference between completing a mission and walking into a trap. The server arrived to take their orders, temporarily distracting them. When Naruto glanced at the bar again, my Valentine was gone, only to reappear moments later approaching their table directly, her stride purposeful and elegant. Well, she drawled in a husky voice. If it isn't the king of games and his entourage. Her violet eyes assessed each person before settling on Naruto. And the mysterious rookie making waves at the regional. Interesting company you're keeping these days, Yugi. The pharaoh had receded, leaving Yugi in control. He smiled politely. Hello, my Are you competing in the regional? Please, she scoffed, flipping her luxuriant blonde hair. I'm already qualified for Battle City. Just scouting talent. Her gaze lingered on Naruto with undisguised interest. Speaking of which, that was quite a performance against Ryota. Unusual strategy. Ninja cards aren't typically tournament viable. I make them work, Naruto replied simply, meeting her evaluative stare without discomfort. A smile curved Mai's painted lips. Confidence. I like that in a duelist. She pulled a chair from a nearby table, joining them uninvited. So, Naruto Uzumaki from nowhere anyone's heard of, what's your story? The group exchanged subtle glances, silently debating how much to reveal. Studying abroad, T supplied smoothly. Staying with me while he's in Domino City. Mai's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose fractionally as she glanced between T and Naruto. As that's so, how? Cozy. T flushed slightly. It's not. We're just. Relax, hun. I'm not judging. Mai waved dismissively before refocusing on Naruto. I'm more interested in where you learn to duel. Your technique is unorthodox. Self-taught, mostly, Naruto answered, which wasn't entirely untrue. I've always preferred developing my own style rather than following established patterns. Mai studied him with the intensity of a predator assessing potential competition. Your second match is against Rex Raptor tomorrow, correct? He's fallen in the rankings lately. But his dinosaur deck can still overwhelm unprepared opponents. Thanks for the heads up, Naruto said genuinely. Any specific advice? Something flickered in Mai's expression. Surprise at being taken seriously, perhaps. Professional duelists rarely shared tactical insights with potential rivals. After a moment's hesitation, she leaned forward. Rex relies on brute force and field dominance. His monsters have high attack points but limited flexibility. Outmaneuver rather than overpower. She tapped manicured nails against the table thoughtfully. And watch for his Serpent Knight Dragon. It's his ace when his dinosaurs fail. Dragon against ninja, Naruto mused. Should be interesting. Mai rose gracefully as their food arrived. Well, this has been enlightening. Perhaps I'll see your match tomorrow, Uzumaki. I'm curious whether your first victory was skill or beginner's luck. Neither, Naruto replied with calm certainty. Just being myself. Something in his straightforward response seemed to intrigue Mai further. She considered him for another moment before nodding slightly. We'll see. With a casual wave to the group, she sauntered toward the exit, drawing appreciative glances from other patrons. Did my Valentine just give you dueling advice? Joey asked incredulously once she was gone. She doesn't even give me advice, and we're friends. Sort of. When she's not being annoying. She's sizing him up, Yugi observed, unwrapping his burger. Mai always studies potential competition carefully. And she thinks you're worth studying, T added. Her tone containing an edge Naruto couldn't quite identify. The conversation shifted to strategy for tomorrow's match, with Joey providing additional insights about Rex Raptor's dueling style from previous encounters. Throughout the meal, Naruto noticed T seemed quieter than usual, occasionally glancing between him and the door Mai had exited through. As evening approached, they parted ways. Outside the restaurant, Joey and Tristan heading to Joey's apartment to help with deck modifications, Yugi returning to the game shop, and Naruto walking T home as had become their routine. The setting sun-painted dominoes skyscrapers in shades of burnished copper and deepening indigo, creating a skyline utterly unlike Konoha's silhouette of trees and mountain faces. Cars streamed past in rivers of headlights and taillights. Their mechanical hum a constant urban undertone. They walked in comfortable silence for several blocks before T spoke. Mai seemed impressed by you. Naruto shrugged. She was gathering information, testing reactions, standard reconnaissance. You talk about it so casually, T observed. Like it's normal to analyze people that way. For a shinobi, it is normal, Naruto admitted. Reading intentions, assessing threats, identifying advantages, it becomes instinct after years of training. T considered this as they waited at a crosswalk. Is that how you see everyone? As potential threats or allies to be analyzed? The question gave Naruto pause. Not everyone, he said finally as the signal changed and they continued walking. Not you, or Yugi, or the others. What changed? Trust, Naruto answered simply. In my world or yours, that's the dividing line. Once I trust someone, I don't need to analyze them constantly. And you trust us? After just a week, Naruto smiled, the expression warming his blue eyes. I've always been good at reading people's hearts, T. Yours is genuine. The compliment brought color to T's cheeks, visible even in the fading light. What about Mai? Do you trust her? Not yet, Naruto admitted. But I don't distrust her either. She's ambitious and calculating, but not malicious. They reached T's apartment building. Pausing outside the entrance, street lamps flickered on around them, casting pools of yellow light that punctuated the gathering dusk. I should warn you, T said, shifting her weight slightly. Mai has a certain effect on guys. That confidence, the looks, the way she carries herself. Naruto tilted his head, studying T's expression. Are you warning me about her, or about myself? Both. Neither. T sighed in frustration. I don't know. Just be careful. The dueling world has politics and relationships you're still learning. I appreciate the concern, Naruto said sincerely. But remember, I've navigated complicated political situations before. Compared to peace negotiations between shinobi villages with centuries of bloodshed between them, duelist relationships seem relatively straightforward. Quote, Chi laughed despite herself. I suppose that's true. She hesitated, then added, I'm just looking out for you. This world might not have ninja assassins, but it has its own dangers. I know. Naruto's expression softened, and having someone watch my back means more than you realize. Something in his tone, a hint of vulnerability beneath the confidence, made T's heart skip. For all his extraordinary abilities and battle experience, Naruto was navigating an alien world, separated from everyone and everything familiar. The loneliness of that reality struck her suddenly and deeply. Impulsively, she stepped forward and hugged him. Naruto stiffened momentarily in surprise before relaxing into the embrace, his arms encircling her gently. You're not alone here, T said firmly. Remember that. I will, Naruto promised, the simple words carrying genuine emotion. They separated somewhat awkwardly, Chi tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as Naruto cleared his throat. So, she said brightly, changing the subject. Big match tomorrow. Need any last-minute strategy sessions tonight? Naruto shook his head. Actually, I was thinking about exploring the city a bit more. I've been focused on tournaments and meetings, but I should understand this world better if I'm going to be here for a while. Want company? Chi offered. Thanks, but I think this is something I need to do alone, Naruto replied. Process everything we learned today, clear my head before tomorrow's match. Chi nodded in understanding. Just be careful, and use that phone if you need anything. I will, Naruto assured her. Don't wait up. With a final wave, he turned and walked away, his orange and black jacket gradually blending into the evening CR. Out of commuters heading home after work, Chi watched until she could no longer distinguish his distinctive blonde hair among the pedestrians before entering her building, a complicated mixture of emotions swirling within her. Nighttime transformed Domino City into a constellation of artificial stars, neon signs and illuminated windows creating a terrestrial galaxy that sprawled in all directions. Naruto moved through this electric forest with the silent efficiency of a shinobi, sometimes walking among crowds on busy avenues, other times leaping between rooftops to observe the urban landscape from above. From these elevated vantage points, patterns emerged, the orderly grid of streets, the flow of traffic like blood through veins, the clustering of energy and activity around entertainment districts contrasted with the quieter residential zones. So different from Konoha's organic layout that had grown around giant trees and natural formations, yet following similar principles of human gathering and dispersal. Naruto paused on the roof of a particularly tall apartment building, creating a single shadow clone to maintain watch while he settled into a meditative posture. With his eyes closed, he extended his chakra sense outward, feeling the city's energy patterns more directly. Thousands of tiny flickers represented the civilian population, each person carrying a small, unconscious chakra signature. Brighter points indicated individuals with greater spiritual awareness or potential, duelists, perhaps, or those connected to the millennium items Yugi had described. And nothing else. Threads of energy that seemed to weave between dimensions, mostly invisible except when they momentarily aligned with his perception. These, Naruto suspected, were the thinning boundaries Ishizu had mentioned. The places where his world and this one brushed against each other like overlapping ripples. Opening his eyes, Naruto noticed his shadow clone gesturing urgently toward the street below. A familiar figure in a purple dress was walking alone, her distinctive blonde hair immediately recognizable even from this height. My Valentine. Curiosity piqued, Naruto dismissed his clone and descended to street level, maintaining enough distance to observe without immediately being noticed. Mai moved with purpose, occasionally checking something on her phone as she navigated away from the main commercial district toward a less populated area dominated by warehouses and industrial buildings. Shinobi instincts engaged automatically. This wasn't the direction to any residential area, nor were there entertainment venues that would attract someone of Mai's evident taste for luxury. Her deliberate pace and frequent glances suggested a clandestine meeting rather than casual wandering. Naruto followed, blending with shadows and maintaining visual contact while assessing potential threats. The warehouse district grew increasingly deserted as Mai continued deeper into it, eventually stopping outside a nondescript building with blacked-out windows. She checked her phone once more before approaching a side entrance that opened before she could knock. The doorway briefly illuminated a large man with a crew-cut security, based on his stance and build, who ushered Mai inside. The door closed, returning the alley to darkness. Curious and slightly concerned, Naruto circled the building, noting multiple guards stationed at strategic points, far more security than any legitimate business would require at this hour. Careful observation revealed no company logos or identifying markings on the warehouse. Only a small symbol stenciled beside the main entrance, a stylized eye identical to the one worn by Mr. Tanaka of the Collectors. So Mai has connections to the organization tracking me, Naruto thought, filing away this information without jumping to conclusions. There could be innocent explanations, perhaps she was investigating them herself, or had been coerced into a meeting. Moving silently to a second-story window with a damaged blind, Naruto found a vantage point that offered partial visibility into the warehouse interior. The space had been converted into some kind of high-tech facility, with computer stations, laboratory equipment, and what appeared to be modified dual discs connected to monitoring devices. Mai stood before a tall, thin man in an expensive suit, accepting what looked like an envelope while gesturing emphatically during their conversation. Though Naruto couldn't hear their exchange, her body language suggested negotiation rather than intimidation. A business arrangement, then. But what business did a professional duelist have with a secretive organization interested in interdimensional energy? Naruto considered his options. Direct confrontation seemed premature without understanding the situation, especially since Mai had offered helpful advice earlier. Infiltration carried risks without backup in an unfamiliar setting. For now, observation and information gathering seemed the prudent approach. He maintained his position for nearly an hour as Mai concluded her business and prepared to leave. Just as she was being escorted out, Naruto noticed something that made his blood run cold. A large glass chamber in the warehouse's center, containing what appeared to be a swirling vortex of energy not unlike the dimensional rift he had fallen through. These people weren't just tracking dimensional anomalies, they were actively attempting to recreate them. Retreating silently, Naruto followed Mai at a greater distance as she left the warehouse district. Her stride more relaxed now, occasionally stopping to window shop at closed boutiques despite the late hour. She eventually hailed a taxi outside a hotel, disappearing into the vehicle without ever realizing she had been observed. Naruto remained in place for several minutes after the taxi departed, processing what he had witnessed. The collectors were more advanced and better organized than he had initially assumed. Mai's connection to them added a complicated variable to an already complex situation. And most concerning, their dimensional experiments suggested an agenda beyond mere observation. The weight of Ishizu's warnings pressed more heavily now. Whatever catastrophe she had foreseen involving dimensional barriers might well be connected to the collector's activities. Which meant Naruto's presence here wasn't random chance but necessary intervention, a familiar role in unfamiliar circumstances. With a resigned sigh, he turned toward T's apartment. Tomorrow's tournament match suddenly seemed almost trivial compared to the larger game unfolding around him. Yet Ishizu had emphasized the importance of maintaining his public dueling persona while they gathered more information. Rules of engagement, Naruto thought grimly. Different in every world, but always complicated. Asterisk. Dash dash dash. Morning arrived with steel-gray clouds threatening rain, matching Naruto's contemplative mood. He had returned late to find T already asleep and had spent several hours on the apartment's small balcony, monitoring the city's energy patterns while planning contingencies. Now, as they walked toward the tournament venue, he debated whether to share his discovery about Mai's connection to the collectors. T had been unusually quiet during breakfast, sensing his preoccupation but respecting his silence. Something happened last night, she said finally as they waited at a crosswalk. Not a question, but a perceptive observation. Naruto nodded. Decision made. I followed my Valentine after we separated. T's eyebrows rose. Any particular reason, or just shinobi habit? Instinct. Naruto clarified. She was heading away from residential areas, into the warehouse district. He briefly described what he had observed. The meeting, the high-tech facility, the apparent dimensional experiment. T listened without interruption, her expression growing increasingly concerned. So Mai's working with these collector people, she concluded when he finished. The same ones tracking you. Working with them, yes. But in what capacity isn't clear. Naruto watched pedestrians hurrying past, umbrella armed against the threatening sky. She could be providing information on duelists, consulting on card energy patterns, or something else entirely. Does this change your approach to the tournament? T asked pragmatically. Naruto shook his head. Ashizu advised staying the course while gathering information. My offering dueling advice suggests she has her own agenda, not necessarily aligned with the collector's goals. Or she's trying to evaluate your abilities up close, T countered. Possibly, Naruto acknowledged. But confronting her without more information could close a potential intelligence source. For now, I'll proceed as planned while remaining vigilant. T nodded, impressed by his strategic thinking despite personal risk. The others should know about this. Agreed. We'll tell them after today's match. They reached the tournament venue, already bustling with duelists and spectators despite the early hour. Security seemed heightened compared to previous days. Additional guards at entrances, camera crews from local stations, and what Naruto recognized as plainclothes security personnel circulating through the crowd. More attention than yesterday, he observed quietly. The tournament's heating up, T explained. Early rounds eliminate casual participants, leaving more serious competitors. Plus, your duel was highlighted in dueling blogs overnight, the mysterious newcomer facing former regional champion Rex Raptor. Naruto grimaced. So much for keeping a low profile. They found Yugi, Joey, and Tristan waiting near the participant registration area, engaged in animated conversation with a young woman Naruto didn't recognize. She wore an elaborate Gothic-inspired outfit complete with petticoats and platform boots. Her dual-colored hair styled in complicated curls. Naruto, Joey called, waving enthusiastically. Come meet Rebecca, she's competing in Block A. Rebecca Hawkins A.D. adjusted her glasses as she assessed Naruto with clinical precision. Despite her doll-like appearance, her gaze held sharp intelligence. So you're the dimensional anomaly, she said matter-of-factly, extending a lace-gloved hand. Fascinating energy signature, completely distinct from shadow magic. Naruto blinked in surprise, shaking her hand cautiously. You can sense that. Rebecca is a child prodigy, Yugi explained. PhD in quantum physics at 16, and American national champion duelist. Former champion, Rebecca corrected with a sniff. Politics and favoritism cost me my title last season. Also Solomon's old friend Arthur Hawkins' granddaughter, she added. She's been studying theoretical dimensional physics. Rebecca nodded eagerly. Grandpa's archaeological findings suggested multiple reality planes intersecting at key historical junctures. My research indicates these intersections follow mathematical patterns consistent with quantum resonance theory. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Your arrival created measurable fluctuations in local reality coherence. You detected me? Naruto asked, simultaneously impressed and concerned. Only because I was specifically monitoring for dimensional anomalies, Rebecca assured him. My equipment is custom-built and extremely sensitive. Most conventional sensors wouldn't register the variations. Joey cleared his throat dramatically. In normal person language, she noticed a weird blip on her science gizmos when you showed up. Rebecca rolled her eyes. That's what I just said, Wheeler. Participants in Block C, please report to your designated arenas, announced the tournament director over the venue's speaker system. Repeat, Block C duelists to your arenas. That's us, Yugi said, turning to Naruto. Ready. Naruto nodded, mind already shifting from dimensional concerns to the immediate challenge. As ready as all get. They navigated through increasingly dense crowds toward Arena 4, where Rex Raptor already waited. Adjusting his dual disc with practiced motions. The former champion cut an unusual figure with his dinosaur-themed attire and distinctive purple hair, but his stance betrayed serious competitive focus. Good luck, he said, squeezing Naruto's arm supportively before joining the others in the spectator area. Naruto approached the arena platform, exchanging a respectful nod with his opponent. So you're the ninja card guy everyone's talking about, Rex observed, sizing him up. Beat Mako Tsunami in your first official duel. Impressive, but ocean creatures nothing compared to the raw power of dinosaurs. We'll see, Naruto replied simply, activating his dual disc. The referee stepped forward. Standard tournament rules apply. Winner advances to the quarterfinals. Duelists ready. Begin. Quote, duel. They declared simultaneously, life point counters initializing at 4,000. I'll start things off, Rex announced, drawing his opening hand. I summon two-headed King Rex in attack mode. A massive purple dinosaur with twin heads materialized on the field, roaring aggressively. Then I place one card face down and end my turn. Naruto drew his first card, quickly assessing options. Rex had opened aggressively with a 1600 attack point monster, respectable, but not overwhelming. The face-down card concerned him more, likely a trap to protect his creature. I summon Shadow Scout Ninja in attack mode, Naruto declared, placing the card on his dual disc. A slender shinobi in dark attire appeared, crouched in ready position despite being officially in attack stance. His special ability activates when summoned. I can examine one face-down card on your field and decide whether to destroy it at the cost of 500 life points. Rex's eyes widened. What? No fair. Ninja infiltration, Naruto explained as his monster seemingly vanished, reappearing behind Rex's face-down card. I choose to view your hidden card. The face-down briefly revealed itself as fossil excavation, a trap that would allow Rex to revive a dinosaur from his graveyard. Since no dinosaurs had been destroyed yet, the trap held limited immediate value. I choose not to destroy it, Naruto decided, his ninja returning to his field. Now I activate the spell card substitution technique, which lets me swap my ninja for one from my deck with the same level but different attributes. Shadow Scout disappeared in a puff of smoke, replaced by a shinobi in light armor with wind symbols adorning his garments. Wind-style ninja takes his place, and gains 300 attack points when substituted this way. The new ninja's attack value rose to 1700, just enough to overpower Rex's dinosaur. Wind-style ninja, attack two-headed King Rex. Gale Force Strike. The ninja formed hand seals, generating visible currents of air that coalesced into slicing blades. As they struck the dinosaur, Naruto carefully modulated his chakra to enhance the hologram without making the effect too obviously supernatural. The dinosaur shattered into pixels, and Rex's life points decreased by 100. Lucky shot, Rex grumbled. But my dinosaurs are just getting warmed up. The duel intensified, as Rex summoned progressively more powerful prehistoric creatures, while Naruto countered with ninja tactics focused on redirection and strategic positioning. The crowd grew as the match continued, attracted by the clash of contrasting styles. From the spectator area, he watched with growing confidence in Naruto's abilities. Despite being new to the game, his combat instincts translated remarkably well to dueling strategy. Each move built upon previous actions, creating combinations that repeatedly disrupted Rex's straightforward power plays. He duels like he fights, Yugi observed beside her. Unpredictable, adaptive, always creating options where opponents see none. It's more than that, she replied thoughtfully. He's enjoying it. Look at his expression. Indeed, despite the high stakes and public scrutiny, Naruto's face showed genuine engagement. Not just competitive focus, but actual pleasure in the mental challenge. It was perhaps the most relaxed she had seen him since his arrival in their dimension. The decisive moment came midway through the duel when Rex, frustrated by Naruto's evasive tactics, committed fully to his ultimate strategy. "I sacrifice my 2 dinosaurs to summon my ultimate predator," Rex declared dramatically. "Serpent Knight Dragon, rise." A massive black dragon materialized on the field, its serpentine form coiling menacingly as darkness seemed to gather around it. The crowd murmured appreciatively at the rare and powerful card, exactly as Mai had predicted. Serpent Knight Dragon, destroy his pathetic ninja. Shadow Flame attack. The dragon gathered dark energy in its maw, preparing to unleash destruction on Naruto's seemingly vulnerable stealth ninja. At that crucial moment, Naruto activated the trap card he had positioned turns earlier. Dragon Sage Intervention, he announced, revealing the card Solomon had gifted him. "When a dragon attacks my ninja monster, I can negate the attack and summon a Dragon Sage monster from my deck or hand." The holographic trap card emitted golden light as it activated, creating a barrier that absorbed the dragon's attack. From the card emerged a powerful new monster, Dragon Sage Warrior in full regalia. Chakra visibly flowing between dragon-themed armor plates. As the monster materialized, Naruto felt a surge of resonance with his dormant Dragon Sage mode. For a brief moment, ethereal blue scales appeared along his forearms. Visible only to him, while the holographic warrior seemed to gain unusual definition and presence. "No way," Rex protested. "That monster has 2,800 attack points. How is that balanced?" "Dragon Sage monsters can only be summoned through specific conditions," Naruto explained, reciting the card's restrictions. "And they return to my deck at the end of my turn unless I discard half my hand." "Still totally broken," Rex muttered. "Dragon Sage Warrior, counterattack. Sage Art. Dragon Flame Jutsu." The warrior performed a complex sequence of hand seals before unleashing a torrent of blue-white flame shaped like a dragon's head. It engulfed Rex's Serpent Knight Dragon, reducing it to digital ash and dropping Rex's life points by 1,000. From that point, the outcome seemed inevitable. Rex fought valiantly with his remaining resources, but Naruto's combination of ninja tactics and dragon power proved overwhelming. 3 turns later, Rex's life points hit 0. "The winner is Naruto Uzumaki, who advances to the quarterfinals," announced the referee as the holograms deactivated. Rex approached, offering his hand with surprising sportsmanship. "Good duel. Never seen cards like yours before. Where'd you get that Dragon Sage stuff?" "Special edition," Naruto improvised, shaking Rex's hand. "Limited release. Figures," Rex sighed. "Well, good luck in the next rounds. You'll need it against the higher seeds." As Rex departed, Naruto was immediately surrounded by his friends offering congratulations. Joey thumped him enthusiastically on the back while Tristan mimicked the Dragon Sage Warrior's finishing move with exaggerated gestures. "That was incredible," Chi exclaimed. "The way you predicted his strategy and countered it perfectly." "Mai's advice helped," Naruto acknowledged. "Knowing his ace card gave me time to prepare." The mention of Mai sobered their celebration slightly, reminding them of the larger concerns beyond the tournament. "Speaking of Mai," Yugi said quietly, "she was watching your match from the VIP section." "Not alone, either," Naruto nodded, having sensed her presence during the duel. "Who with?" "Suit guy, very corporate looking." Joey supplied. "Tanaka, maybe." "Could be," Naruto agreed. "We should discuss this somewhere private." Before they could move, a tournament official approached, tablet in hand. "Mr. Uzumaki, congratulations on your advancement. The quarterfinals begin tomorrow at 10 a.m. Your opponent will be determined by this afternoon's remaining matches." He offered the tablet. "Please confirm your registration information and contact details for our records." As Naruto reviewed the digital form, movement near the arena exit caught his attention. Mai Valentine was leaving ACC, accompanied by a tall man in an expensive charcoal suit, not Tanaka, but someone with similar refined bearing and corporate presence. The man glanced in Naruto's direction, their eyes meeting briefly across the distance. In that moment, Naruto experienced another flash of vision, a massive stone temple surrounded by swirling dimensional energy, dragons circling its spires while robed figures channeled power between realms. At the temple's center stood an altar identical to the one Ishizu had shown them, but intact and glowing with mystical energy. The vision vanished as quickly as it had appeared. leaving Naruto momentarily disoriented. When he refocused, both Mai and her companion had disappeared into the crowd. Naruto, you okay? Chi asked, noticing his sudden distraction. Another vision, he confirmed quietly, returning the tablet to the official with a polite nod. More detailed this time. I saw a temple, the same one connected to the altar Ishizu showed us. Your connection to this world's energy is growing stronger, Yugi observed. These visions might be memories embedded in the cards themselves, fragments of ancient events surfacing through your chakra. Or warnings about what's coming, Naruto added grimly. Rebecca adjusted her glasses thoughtfully. Quantum entanglement across dimensional boundaries often manifests as precognitive episodes in sensitives. Your brain is literally processing information from multiple reality planes simultaneously. In normal person language, Joey prompted. Rebecca sighed dramatically. His ninja energy lets him see stuff from different dimensions, including possible futures. We should consult with Ishizu again, Yugi decided. These visions could provide crucial context for the ancient texts she's studying. As they discussed next steps, Naruto noticed something unusual, a small origami crane resting on the edge of the arena platform where none had been moments before. With practiced casualness, he picked it up ill pretending to adjust his dual-disc strap. The paper crane contained a message written in flowing script, not all collectors seek the same prize. Midnight, Central Park Fountain. Come alone if you want answers about returning home. Naruto discreetly pocketed the note, maintaining his engagement in the group's conversation while scanning the crowd for potential observers. The message's delivery had been expertly executed. No detectable approach, perfect timing during the momentary confusion following his vision. Someone with shinobi-level stealth capabilities had just made contact. The implications spun through Naruto's mind as they exited the tournament venue into streets now slick with light rain. The dimensional boundaries were thinning as Ishizu had warned, drawing more players into a complex game whose rules Naruto was still learning. Tonight's meeting could be a genuine offer of help, a trap, or something between, but it represented the first direct path toward potential answers about returning home. Chi noticed his distraction as they sheltered under the venue's awning. Something else happened, didn't it? She asked quietly, falling slightly behind the others. Naruto hesitated, then made a decision based on instinct and growing trust. Someone left me a message. A meeting invitation. The collectors? Chi asked, concern evident in her expression. Possibly. Or someone else entirely. Naruto watched raindrops creating rippling patterns in puddles, dimensional membranes in miniature. I need to go. Alone. That's a terrible idea, Chi protested immediately. It's obviously a trap. Maybe. Naruto conceded. But it's also the first direct offer of information about returning home. I can handle myself if it turns dangerous. Chi studied his resolute expression, recognizing the determination that wouldn't be dissuaded. At least let us provide backup, monitor from distance. Naruto shook his head. Whoever left this message has skills that would detect surveillance. This is the kind of situation I'm trained for, Chi. She sighed in frustration. There's no talking you out of this, is there? Would you abandon a chance to achieve your dream of dancing in New York? Even if it meant risk? Naruto countered gently. That's different, Chi objected. Is it? Naruto's blue eyes held hers steadily. We all have places we belong, dreams we pursue. Konoha is mine. The simple honesty of his statement struck Chi deeply. Of course he would take risks to return home, to the people who needed him, the world he had fought to protect. Her selfish desire to keep him safe in this dimension suddenly seemed small by comparison. Promise you'll be careful, she said finally. And use that phone I gave you if there's trouble. Naruto nodded solemnly. I promise. As they rejoined the others beneath the gray sky of a world not his own, Naruto felt the weight of multiple responsibilities balancing precariously, obligations to new friends who had accepted him without question. Duty to a home dimension that might need his protection, and the growing suspicion that his arrival here had been not accident but necessity. The dimensional boundaries were weakening, ancient powers stirring in response, and organizations with unknown agendas maneuvering for advantage. At the center of this converging storm stood Naruto Uzumaki, shinobi, duelist. Dimensional anomaly, following rules of engagement that transcended worlds while forging connections that might ultimately bridge them. The rain intensified as they walked through Domino City's gleaming streets, washing away footprints almost as quickly as they formed. Temporary impressions in a world where Naruto Uzumaki was still determining what mark he would leave, and for how long. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Shadows and Spirits. Midnight in Domino City Central Park carried an ethereal quality. Mist curled between carefully manicured trees, transforming familiar paths into mysterious corridors of shadow and silvery light. The fountain at the park's center stood silent, its waters stilled for the night, stonefish frozen mid-leap against a backdrop of urban illumination filtered through fog. Naruto approached with measured steps, every sense heightened. He had arrived 30 minutes early to secure the area, shadow clones positioned at strategic points throughout the park to monitor approaches. So far, they had detected nothing beyond normal nighttime park inhabitants, a few homeless individuals seeking shelter, nocturnal wildlife, and the occasional patrol by bored security guards. The message hadn't specified which side of the massive fountain served as the meeting point, so Naruto chose the northern face, positioning himself with clear sightlines in all directions while keeping the fountain's central sculpture as partial cover. He wore his original shinobi attire tonight, restored through careful repairs during quiet evenings at T's apartment. The familiar weight of his kunai holster against his thigh provided reassurance, though he hoped negotiation rather than combat would define the encounter. At precisely midnight, a soft voice spoke from directly behind him. "You came alone. Wise choice." Naruto didn't startle or turn immediately, a testament to his combat experience. Instead, he extended his chakra sense outward, confirming what his instincts already suspected. His shadow clones hadn't been eliminated, this individual had simply bypassed them completely. "Few people can approach me undetected," Naruto observed, finally turning to face his mysterious contact. The woman standing before him defied immediate categorization. Tall and lithe, with olive complexion and angular features that suggested Middle Eastern heritage, she wore form-fitting, dark attire that balanced practical mobility with elegant styling. Her black hair was gathered in an intricate braid that hung over one shoulder, contrasting with sharp amber eyes that assessed him with professional detachment. "Few people can create autonomous energy duplicates to establish a surveillance perimeter," she countered smoothly. "Your abilities are fascinating. You have me at a disadvantage," Naruto replied. "You know what I can do, but I don't even know your name." A slight smile curved her lips. "You may call me Arya. I represent interests that align tangentially with your own. Not the collectors, then. Not directly, though our organizations share certain research areas." Arya moved to sit on the fountain's edge, a casual posture belied by the coiled readiness Naruto recognized in her stance. "Tell me, Naruto Uzumaki, what do you know about the history of dimensional boundaries in this world?" The question confirmed she possessed significant intelligence about his situation. Ancient Egyptian magics inadvertently weakened the barriers between dimensions during the Shadow Wars, Naruto answered, recalling Ishizu's explanation. "The Millennium Items Air created partially to contain that instability." Arya nodded approvingly. "A simplified version, but essentially correct. What Ishizu Ishtar likely didn't tell you is that her ancestors weren't the only ones manipulating these energies." She reached into a small pouch at her waist, withdrawing an object wrapped in black silk. "May I approach?" she asked with unexpected formality. Naruto nodded, maintaining vigilance despite her seeming openness. Arya unwrapped the silk to reveal a small bronze artifact, an amulet depicting a dragon coiled protectively around a nine-pointed star. The L appeared impossibly ancient yet gleamed with unusual luster, as if internally illuminated. "This is older than the Millennium Items by several centuries," Arya explained. "Created by a different TR edition entirely, one that understood the dimensional boundaries were never meant to be completely sealed." As she held the amulet closer, Naruto felt an immediate resonance with his Dragon Sage chakra. Not unlike his connection to certain cards, but more primal, more direct. "It recognizes you," Arya observed with evident satisfaction. "As I suspected." "What is it?" Naruto asked, resisting the urge to touch the object despite its compelling pull. "The Boundary Mediator, or one of several, according to our records. Created by those who called themselves Dimensional Guardians, tasked with maintaining appropriate flow between realms." Arya wrapped the amulet carefully. Not sealing dimensions away from each other, but ensuring their energies remained in balance. And this relates to my situation. How, exactly? The organization I represent believes your arrival wasn't accidental. The barriers have been weakening systematically for months, long before you crossed over. Arya's expression grew more serious. The collectors are merely the public face of a much larger consortium seeking to exploit these weaknesses. They believe dimensional energy can be harnessed, weaponized. For what purpose? Power, primarily. The energy differential between dimensions represents potential on a scale that makes nuclear fission look like a child's chemistry set. Arya's clinical descriptee sent a chill through Naruto despite the mild night. But they don't understand what they're tampering with. Dimensions aren't separate realities to be mined for resources, they're interconnected aspects of a single multiversal ecosystem. Quote, Naruto considered her words carefully. The explanation aligned with his experiences. The resonance between his chakra and this world's magical systems suggest fundamental compatibility rather than complete alienus. You mentioned returning home, he said finally. Is that possible without damaging the dimensional boundaries further? Possible, yes. Simple, no. Arya stood, moving with the fluid grace of someone extensively trained in combat. The pathways must be stabilized before safe transit can be established. Otherwise, crossing back could tear the boundaries further, accelerating the very catastrophe we're trying to prevent. I represent an organization called Boundary Wardens, descendants of the original Dimensional Guardians. Ave worked from the shadows for centuries, correcting imbalances and preventing exploitation of dimensional energies. Arya's amber eyes fixed on his with sudden intensity. Your Dragon Sage Chakra is remarkably similar to the energy our ancestors channeled. We believe you may be a counterpart to our wardens from your dimension, evolved differently, but serving the same fundamental cosmic function. The theory resonated with uncomfortable logic. Naruto had discovered Dragon Sage mode during his final confrontation with Momoshiki, an enemy who had himself manipulated dimensional boundaries through his Rinnegan abilities. That the mode had activated precisely when facing a dimensional threat seemed unlikely to be coincidence. So you're suggesting I was drawn here deliberately? By what? Cosmic balance. By necessity, Arya corrected. Something or someone in this dimension is systematically destabilizing the boundaries. The multiverse responds to such threats by bringing together counterbalancing forces. She gestured toward his chest, where his chakra network glowed faintly to her trained perception. You were one such response. Pretty elaborate cosmic security system, Naruto observed dryly. Arya's lips quirked in what might have been amusement. Indeed, but effective. The question is whether you'll accept the role you've been drawn here to fulfill. Which is what, exactly? Help us locate the source of the dimensional destabilization, neutralize it, and in doing so, create a balanced pathway for your return journey. Arya produced a small device from her pocket, nothing like a thumb drive but with unusual crystalline components. This contains information about known collector facilities in Domino City and preliminary research on dimensional harmonics. Consider it a gesture of good faith. Naruto accepted the device cautiously. Why approach me now? Why not earlier? We needed to confirm your nature and intentions. Your tournament duels provided excellent opportunities for assessment. Arya's professional demeanor softened fractionally. And we had to ensure you weren't aligned with the collectors already. My Valentine's interest in you raised concerns. My works for them? Naruto asked, the confirmation of his suspicions landing heavily. Consults occasionally on Duelist psychological profiles. She's not fully aware of their true agenda. Arya checked a sleek watch on her wrist. I've remained in one location too long. We'll contact you again after you've reviewed the information. Trust your instincts about who to share it with, but remember that the collectors have infiltrated multiple levels of Domino City infrastructure. Naruto nodded, pocketing the device. One more question. The woman at the tournament who could approach without detection, was that you? A genuine smile crossed Arya's face for the first time. Perhaps. Or perhaps there are others with talents comparable to your own in this dimension. With that cryptic response, she stepped backward into deeper shadow. Until next time, Dragon Sage. She moved with startling speed, seeming to blend with darkness itself as she vanished among the park's mist-shrouded trees. Naruto tracked her retreat as long as possible, impressed despite himself at her stealth capabilities, not chakra-based, but equally effective through different methods. He remained at the fountain for several minutes, absorbing the implications of their conversation. If Arya spoke truthfully, his presence here served a purpose beyond random dimensional accident, a purpose tied directly to his newly discovered dragon sage abilities. Yet questions lingered. Why had Ishizu omitted the information about dimensional guardians predating Egyptian shadow magic? Was she unaware, or deliberately withholding knowledge? And most pressingly, who or what was systematically destabilizing dimensional boundaries, and to what end? With a silent hand sign, Naruto dismissed his shadow clones stationed throughout the park, integrating their surveillance observations into his consciousness. None had detected additional watchers or surveillance equipment, suggesting Arya had indeed come alone. As he departed the park, navigating through mist-veiled pathways toward T's apartment, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter had answered some questions only to raise more significant ones. The multiversal chessboard grew more complex with each passing day, pieces moving in patterns he was only beginning to discern. Dawn found T. Gardner already awake, nursing her second cup of coffee at the kitchen counter. Sleep had proven elusive with Naruto out meeting an unknown contact, concerns about his safety warring with respect for his abilities and autonomy. When he had finally returned shortly after 1 a.m., she had pretended sleep while he settled silently on the living room couch. The soft sounds of his breathing had eventually lulled her into fitful slumber. Now she waited, questions burning on her tongue as the apartment gradually brightened with morning light. She didn't have to wait long. "You're up early," Naruto observed, emerging from the bathroom freshly showered, toweling his damp blonde hair. He wore borrowed sweatpants and a t-shirt that clung to his still damp shoulders. She tried not to notice the defined musculature revealed by the somewhat too small shirt. "Couldn't really sleep," she admitted. "How did your mysterious meeting go?" Naruto glanced toward the closed windows, then around the apartment with a shinobi's instinctive security check. "Informative, but complicated. I'm not entirely sure who to trust yet." He briefly outlined the encounter with Arya and her claims about boundary wardens, dimensional guardians, and cosmic balance. She listened without interruption, only her widening eyes betraying her reaction to these new layers of complexity. "So there's not just one secret organization involved in dimensional manipulation, but at least two competing groups," she clarified when he finished. "And they both think you're some kind of dimensional counterbalance sent by the universe itself." Naruto shrugged, the gesture somehow both casual and burdened. "Apparently I can't go anywhere without being part of some cosmic prophecy or ancient destiny." It was the same back home. The wry resignation in his tone made T's heart ache. Despite his extraordinary abilities, Naruto remained a young man repeatedly thrust into responsibilities far beyond normal human scale. "What will you do?" she asked simply. "Verify what I can of Arya's information first," Naruto decided, producing the crystalline device. "This supposedly contains intelligence on collector operations. I'll need access to a computer that can't be easily tracked." "Rebecca," she suggested immediately. "She has all kinds of specialized equipment for her dimensional research. If anyone can safely access that data, it's her." Naruto nodded approvingly. "Good thinking. Can you contact her?" "Already texting," she confirmed, fingers flying across her phone's keyboard. After a moment, she looked up with satisfaction. "She says to meet her at Domino Tech's physics lab in an hour. Apparently she has access through her research fellowship." "Perfect. That gives us time to eat and plan our next steps." Naruto moved toward the kitchen, opening cupboards with familiar ease. "I'll make breakfast." She raised an eyebrow. "You cook." "Basic survival skills," Naruto explained, gathering ingredients. "When you live alone from childhood, you either learn or starve." The casual reference to his orphaned upbringing landed like a stone in still water, ripples of implication spreading outward. She had gathered fragments of Naruto's past through their conversations over the past week, his isolated childhood as a Jinchuriki, his determined pursuit of acknowledgement, his gradual accumulation of precious bonds through shared trials. The resilience Riku, I read to emerge from such beginnings with his fundamental optimism intact struck her anew. She watched as he efficiently prepared a simple but hearty breakfast, eggs, toast, and sliced fruit arranged with surprising artistry. His movements in the kitchen displayed the same economy of motion evident in his dueling and combat, no gesture wasted or superfluous. "You've adjusted well," she observed as he placed a plate before her. "To this world, I mean. Everything must be so different from your home." Naruto considered this as he sat opposite her. Some things are universal. People still need connection, still struggle with fear and hope, still try to protect what matters to them. He took a bite of toast before adding, "The technology and culture shock was disorienting at first, but the essentials of human interaction translate well enough." "Is that your ninja training? Adapting to unfamiliar environments?" "Partly," Naruto acknowledged, "but mostly it's experience. I've encountered so many different cultures and peoples in my world that I've learned to find common ground rather than focusing on differences." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, morning sunlight streaming through kitchen windows to create dappled patterns on the table between them. She found herself studying Naruto's face, the play of light across features that had become familiar yet retained an essential foreignness. Not just his appearance with its whisker marks and unusually vibrant blue eyes, but the way he carried himself, the particular quality of his attention when he listened, the unexpected wisdom that occasionally emerged from beneath his straightforward demeanor. "What?" Naruto asked, catching her prolonged gaze. She blushed slightly, embarrassed at being caught staring. "Sorry, I was just thinking how strange all this is. A month ago my biggest concern was perfecting my dance audition for the New York scholarship. Now I'm having breakfast with an interdimensional ninja sage involved in a cosmic conspiracy." Naruto laughed, the sound bright and genuine. "Life has a way of taking unexpected turns. Back home, I was preparing to potentially become Hokage, leader of my village. Now I'm a duelist trying to prevent dimensional collapse while figuring out card game strategies. Do you miss it? The path you were on?" The question sobered him. "Every day, not just the goal, but the people, my friends, mentors, the villagers who finally acknowledged me." He set down his fork, eyes distant. "Sakura and Kakashi-sensei must be worried sick. And Sasuke." He trailed off, clearly troubled by thoughts of those left behind. She reached across the table, covering his hand with her own in a gesture of spontaneous comfort. "We'll find a way to get you home. Between your abilities, our friends, and apparently two different ancient organizations, there has to be a solution." Naruto turned his hand to clasp hers briefly, the contact sending an unexpected warmth up her arm. "Thank you, Chi, for everything." The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither was quite ready to name. Chi became acutely aware of their connected hands, the morning intimacy of shared breakfast. The domesticity that had developed so naturally over their week together. The chime of her phone shattered the moment. Chi withdrew her hand perhaps too quickly, checking the message with forced casualness. "Rebecca says she can get us in earlier if we hurry." "Then we should go," Naruto agreed, rising to clear their plates with efficient movements that didn't quite disguise the faint color in his cheeks. As they prepared to leave, Chi found herself wondering about the unexpected complications of hosting a dimensional visitor, particularly one whose courage, compassion, and innate charisma made him increasingly difficult to think of as merely a temporary guest in her life. Domino Technological Institute occupied a sprawling campus at the city's northern edge. Its ultra-modern architecture of glass and steel contrasting sharply with downtown's more eclectic styling. The physics department occupied an entire wing of the science complex, with Rebecca's quantum research lab secured behind multiple keycard access points and biometric scanners. "Paranoid much?" Chi commented as they cleared the third security door. "Dimensional physics has military applications," Rebecca explained, swiping her badge at a final checkpoint. "Plus, my equipment is custom-built and worth more than this entire building." The lab beyond the security gauntlet justified such protection. Cutting-edge technology filled the vast space, server racks humming with computational power, holographic displays projecting complex mathematical models, and at the room's center, a device that resembled a miniature particle accelerator encased in transparent shielding. "Welcome to my playground," Rebecca announced with evident pride, gesturing expansively. "State-of-the-art in quantum dimensional research. And completely isolated from external networks for security." Naruto surveyed the equipment with measured appreciation, recognizing the lab's significance despite unfamiliarity with its specific components. Impressive. Even the most advanced technology in my world doesn't approach this level of sophistication. Rebecca beamed at the compliment, adjusting her glasses with undisguised pride. That's because your dimension appears to have channeled developmental energy toward biological potential, chakra manipulation, while ours focused on technological advancement. Errant evolutionary paths from a common origin point. She led them to a workstation somewhat removed from the lab's central apparatus, activating a specialized computer system with retinal and fingerprint verification. This terminal has advanced isolation protocols and custom security algorithms I designed myself, she explained, holding out her hand. Let's see this mysterious device. Naruto produced the crystalline drive, which glinted with unusual iridescence under the lab's bright lighting. Rebecca accepted it reverently, examining its construction with expert eyes. Fascinating architecture, she murmured. Crystal lattice quantum storage, theoretical in our scientific community but apparently practical for someone. She located an unusual port on her system and carefully inserted the device. Let's see what secrets you're hiding. The computer hummed briefly before displaying a request for authentication. Rebecca's fingers flew across the keyboard, executing commands at remarkable speed. Sophisticated encryption, she noted with professional admiration. Multi-layered quantum algorithms, interesting. It appears designed specifically for you, Naruto. For me, how? Rebecca pointed to a pulsing interface element. This authentication request isn't standard digital security, it's an energy resonance scanner. It's waiting for your specific chakra signature. Naruto exchanged glances with T. That suggests Arya's organization has been studying me more closely than she admitted. Or they've encountered others with similar energy patterns before, Rebecca suggested. Either way, we need your direct interaction to access the data. She indicated a sensor pad connected to the terminal. Place your hand here and channel a small amount of chakra, just enough to register. Not enough to overload my equipment, please. Naruto complied, focusing a minimal stream of chakra through his palm into the sensor. The device responded immediately, the crystal drive, pulsing with internal light as data began flowing across the monitor in cascading streams. We're in, Rebecca confirmed, rapidly organizing the incoming information into navigable categories. KS-like dossiers on collector operations, facility schematics, personnel files, and, hello, what's this? She highlighted a heavily encrypted data packet labeled, Dragon Sage Concordance. That seems specifically relevant to you, she observed, peering over Rebecca's shoulder. Separate encryption algorithm, Rebecca muttered, typing commands that yielded error messages. This section requires additional authentication, not just energy signature, but specific resonance pattern. Let me try something, Naruto suggested. Instead of raw chakra, he channeled a carefully controlled thread of Dragon Sage energy, the specific frequency that responded to certain cards and ancient artifacts. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The encrypted section unlocked, but simultaneously, the Crystal drive began pulsing with increasing intensity, projecting what appeared to be a three-dimensional star chart into the air above the terminal. What did you do? Rebecca gasped, staring at the holographic display with scientific wonder. Activated my Dragon Sage chakra, Naruto explained, equally surprised by the response. It's the energy connected to dimensional boundaries. The projection stabilized, revealing not stars but interconnected nodes representing what could only be dimensional junction points. At certain intersections, pulsing red markers indicated what appeared to be instability or damage in the cosmic fabric. It's a map, T breathed. Of the multiverse. Not just a map, Rebecca corrected, her child prodigy mind rapidly assimilating the implications. It's a real-time diagnostic of dimensional integrity. Those red points are actively deteriorating boundaries. She manipulated controls to zoom into a specific cluster, where a particularly bright convergence of energy lines intersected. This must be our location in the dimensional matrix. Look how many boundaries converge here. Domino City appears to be a nexus point. Which explains why I arrived here specifically, Naruto reasoned. And why both the collectors and boundary wardens concentrate their operations in this area. Rebecca nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Points of dimensional convergence. E would naturally attract organizations interested in crossing or manipulating those boundaries. She indicated several red markers surrounding the domino nexus. These deterioration points are troubling, though. They're growing at an accelerated rate. How long until critical failure? Naruto asked pragmatically. Rebecca ran calculations through her system, cross-referencing the map data with her own research. Based on current degradation rates, 2 weeks, perhaps less before the first major breach occurs. Her expression grew somber. After that, cascade failure becomes probable. Multiple dimensions bleeding into each other. Laws of physics destabilizing as reality systems conflict. That's consistent with what both Ishizu and Arya predicted, she noted. But neither mentioned a timeframe this urgent. They might not have had this level of diagnostic data, Rebecca suggested, gesturing toward the map. This is incredibly sophisticated dimensional modeling. Naruto studied the projection intently, recognizing tactical significance in the pattern of deterioration points. These aren't random failures. They form a deliberate pattern around the central nexus, almost like a ritual circle, she finished. Seeing the geometric arrangement, like the ceremonial patterns Yugis mentioned from ancient Egyptian magic, Rebecca manipulated the display, overlaying a geometric analysis that confirmed their observation. She's right. These deterioration points form a perfect nonogram, a 9-pointed star pattern consistent with certain ancient binding formulations. The same symbol that was on Arya's amulet. Naruto recalled. A 9-pointed star surrounded by a dragon. The implications settled heavily over the room. Someone wasn't just accidentally weakening dimensional boundaries. They were systematically creating a pattern of failures that served some larger magical purpose. We need to see what else is on this drive, she urged. Facility locations, personnel files, anything that might identify who's behind this. Rebecca nodded, closing the projection and diving into the remaining data. Collector operations appear centralized at 3 main facilities in Domino City, she reported. Displaying building schematics on the monitor. Primary research lab in the warehouse district, likely what you observed when following my Valentine. Secondary facility beneath Kaiba Corp Tower, suggesting some level of connection to Kaiba's organization. Third location, she frowned. That's odd. What is it? Naruto asked. The third facility coordinates plaque. It directly beneath Domino Museum, specifically under the Egyptian exhibition hall where Ishizu Ishtar works. Chi's eyes widened. You think Ishizu is connected to the collectors? Are they operating without her knowledge? Naruto suggested, remembering the curator's apparent sincerity. Either way, it raises questions about how much she's told us. Rebecca continued through the files. Hey, our sonal data includes profiles on known operatives, including your Mr. Tanaka, whose real name appears to be Himuro Kagetora, former military intelligence before joining the collectors 8 years ago. She displayed a series of photographs showing various individuals in professional settings, many wearing the distinctive eye symbol Naruto had observed. Leadership structure is complex, independent. Cells reporting to regional directors who answer to a governing council. The council members' identities are protected by code names and encryption I can't easily break. What about my Valentine? She asked, a hint of tension in her voice. Does it confirm her involvement? Rebecca scrolled through files before finding a relevant entry. Here she is, listed as external consultant, Duelist Psi. Chological profiling, with limited clearance. She's not a full member, just a specialized contractor. Chi's expression revealed mixed relief and lingering concern. So she might not know their true agenda. Or she's deeper than her official designation indicates, Naruto cautioned. In my experience, intelligence organizations often maintain deliberate misinformation within their own systems. Rebecca nodded agreement. Plausible deniability and compartmentalization, standard practice in sensitive operations. Further exploration revealed operational details, monitoring systems tracking dimensional fluctuations throughout Domino City, experimental technology designed to harness energy from weakened boundaries, and most concerning, a project codenamed Convergence, scheduled for implementation in approximately 2 weeks. The timeline matches our projected boundary failure, Rebecca observed grimly. They're not trying to prevent dimensional collapse, they're orchestrating it. But why? Chi questioned. What could possibly be worth risking reality itself? The answer appeared in the final file Rebecca accessed, a heavily redacted research summary containing fragmented references to unlimited energy extraction, dimensional superiority, and reality restructuring potential. The document's conclusion stated in clinical terms, controlled convergence of selected dimensio null planes will enable harvesting of differential energy with minimal collateral effects in primary reality. They believe they can control which dimensions connect and siphon power from the process, Naruto summarized. Recognizing the dangerous arrogance behind such thinking. Like damming a river while ignoring that the water must go somewhere. Worse than that, Rebecca added, her scientific expertise lending particular weight to her assessment. Dimensional boundaries aren't arbitrary divisions, they're fundamental structural elements of the multiverse. Deliberately weakening them for energy extraction is like removing load-bearing walls from a skyscraper to harvest the steel. Total collapse, she whispered, the magnitude of potential catastrophe dawning fully. Not just our world, but multiple dimensions. Naruto's expression hardened with resolve. Then we stop them, starting with verification of these facilities and direct assessment of their capabilities. You can't Saint Storm heavily secured research installations, Rebecca protested. They'll have defenses, security personnel, contingency measures. A hint of feral determination glinted in Naruto's blue eyes. They infiltrated more heavily guarded facilities than these. Besides, I don't intend to storm anything yet, just confirm what we've learned and gather additional intelligence. We should tell Yugi and the others first, Chi insisted. This affects everyone, and we need all the help we can get. Agreed, Naruto conceded, but carefully. If the collectors have infiltrated Domino's infrastructure as extensively as Arya claimed, we need to be cautious about communications and meeting locations. Rebecca secured the data, creating encrypted backups while removing any trace of their access from her systems. I'll continue analyzing the dimensional map data through my own models. If these boundary failures follow predictable patterns, we might identify critical intervention points. As they prepared to leave, an alert chimed on Rebecca's phone. Tournament update, she explained, checking the notification. Quarterfinal bracket assignments have been posted. Naruto, you're scheduled to face. Her eyes widened slightly. A Shizu Ishtar. She must have entered late as a special exhibition participant. The news landed with particular weight after their discoveries about collector operations beneath the museum. Either coincidence, which Naruto's shinobi instincts dismissed immediately, or deliberate maneuvering to create a public confrontation. When? He asked simply. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Center Arena. Rebecca looked up from her phone with concern. This can't be random timing. No, Naruto agreed. Someone's accelerating their timetable. He glanced at the crystal drive, now safely ejected from Rebecca's system. Or responding to our investigations. What will you do? Chi asked. Naruto pocketed the drive with grim determination. Exactly what they expect. Participate in the tournament. Maintain my public persona while we gather more information. A humorless smile touched his lips. And prepare some surprises for whoever's watching. As they left the lab, navigating back through multiple security checkpoints, Naruto maintained casual conversation while his mind processed tactical considerations. The tournament provided both vulnerability, a public venue where his movements could be easily tracked, and opportunity, direct interaction with a Shizu under circumstances that would make immediate hostile action difficult for either side. More concerning was the accelerating timeline. If the Collector's Convergence project aligned with predicted boundary failures in approximately 2 weeks, their window for effective countermeasures was rapidly narrowing. We need to expand our information sources, Naruto decided as they exited the Institute building into bright afternoon sunlight. Rebecca, continue your analysis and maintain secure copies of everything we've found. Contact Yugi and arrange a meeting somewhere unlikely to be monitored. What about you? Chi asked, noting his strategic tone. I'm going to perform reconnaissance on the warehouse facility, Naruto stated matter-of-factly. Confirm security parameters and operational status without engagement. Alone. Chi's concern was evident in her voice. Naruto nodded. Stealth reconnaissance is my specialty. I'll be more effective solo. Rebecca adjusted her glasses thoughtfully. While you're doing that, I'll see what I can discover about energy consumption patterns around these facilities. Dimensional manipulation requires enormous power. They must be drawing from somewhere. They parted at the campus entrance, Rebecca returning to her lab while T and Naruto headed toward the train station. As they walked, T studied Naruto's profile. His expression had shifted subtly, features settling into the focused determination of a trained operative preparing for mission parameters. "This is the real you, isn't it?" she observed quietly. "Not just the duelist or the displaced visitor, but this, the shinobi strategist." Naruto glanced at her, momentarily surprised by her perception. "It's part of me," he acknowledged. "The part trained to assess threats and protect what matters." After a pause, he added, "Does it bother you?" She considered the question seriously. "No," she decided. "It's actually reassuring. Like seeing all the different aspects that make you whole." She smiled slightly. "Besides, we apparently need your shinobi skills to prevent dimensional apocalypse. So it would be pretty inconvenient to be bothered by them." The observation startled a genuine laugh from Naruto, breaking through his tactical focus. "You have a way of putting things in perspective, Gardner." "Dance training," she replied with mock seriousness. "You learn to see the whole performance, not just individual steps." Their eyes met with shared understanding that transcended their dramatically different backgrounds. For a moment, dimensional boundaries seemed insignificant compared to the connection forming between them, a bridge built of mutual respect, growing affection, and the particular intimacy that develops through shared challenges. The moment lingered until the rumble of an approaching train broke its spell. As they boarded, Naruto mentally shifted back to mission planning, but with a warmth in his chest that hadn't been there before, a reminder of exactly what was at stake in the conflict unfolding around them. The warehouse district transformed dramatically between day and night. What functioned as a bustling commercial hub during business hours became an urban ghost town after sunset. Loading docks empty, shipping containers silent sentinels in the darkness. Security lights casting pools of harsh illumination amid deepening shadows. Naruto moved through this industrial landscape with practiced invisibility, chakra suppressed to minimal levels while he assessed the target facility identified in Arya's intelligence. The warehouse appeared unremarkable from outside. Standard construction, basic security measures visible at entry points, ND signage identifying it as storage for a medical supply company. The deception might have been convincing to civilian observation, but Naruto's shinobi training revealed the inconsistencies immediately. Power cables too substantial for standard warehouse operations. Ventilation systems designed for laboratory environments rather than storage. Security cameras with military-grade tracking capabilities disguised as commercial units. Most tellingly, the pattern of guard rotations suggested protection of high-value assets rather than simple theft prevention. From his concealed position atop an adjacent building, Naruto created a shadow clone with the barest whisper of chakra. The clone transformed its appearance to match nearby maintenance workers before descending to ground level, its Ms. Scion to circumnavigate the facility and identify additional entry points while the original maintained overwatch. As the clone conducted its survey, Naruto extended his chakra sense carefully toward the warehouse. Probing for energy signatures, what he detected confirmed their suspicions. Beneath the ordinary exterior pulsed something extraordinary, a churning vortex of power reminiscent of the dimensional rift he had fallen through. The clone completed its circuit and returned with comprehensive intelligence. 3 standard entrances all under guard, a loading dock with restricted access, RO. A ventilation that might provide entry for someone of exceptional stealth capability, and most promisingly, an underground access point connected to municipal utility tunnels. Dismissing the clone and absorbing its gathered information, Naruto weighed options. Full infiltration tonight carried unnecessary risks without additional intelligence and team coordination. The facility's security, while substantial, didn't appear on high alert, suggesting the collectors remained unaware their operational details had been compromised. Strategic patience would serve better than immediate action. Compel, eat the tournament quarterfinal tomorrow, assess a Shizu's knowledge and intentions, then coordinate a full team approach to neutralizing the dimensional technology. Decision made, Naruto prepared to withdraw, when movement near the warehouse's side entrance caught his attention. A familiar figure emerged, platinum blonde hair unmistakable even in dim security lighting. "My Valentine." She exited the building accompanied by a tall man in a tailored suit, the same corporate figure who had watched Naruto's previous tournament match. Their body language suggested conclusion of formal business rather than casual interaction. With Mai accepting what appeared to be an envelope before they parted ways. Naruto maintained absolute stillness as Mai walked to a sleek sports car parked nearby. As she reached the vehicle, however, she paused, scanning the surrounding area with surprising thoroughness, almost as if sensing observation. After a moment, she entered her car and departed, headlights fly illuminating empty loading zones before disappearing around a corner. Waiting several minutes to ensure no additional personnel emerged, Naruto finally retreated, moving swiftly across rooftops toward the rendezvous point where T would meet him after her meeting with Yugi and the others. The designated meeting location was a 24-hour cafe in a neutral commercial district, public enough to discourage direct confrontation. Busy enough to mask conversation, yet sufficiently unremarkable to avoid drawing attention. As Naruto approached from above, he spotted T already seated at an outdoor table, nursing a cup of coffee while casually monitoring her surroundings. Her situational awareness had improved noticeably during their time together, a civilian adapting to security consciousness through proximity to his shinobi habits. The observation brought an unexpected surge of pride. Naruto descended to street level via a secluded alley before approaching normally, sliding into the chair opposite T with a greeting nod. "Productive evening?" she asked, sliding a second coffee cup toward him. Confirmed facility location and basic security parameters, Naruto reported quietly, accepting the drink gratefully. Dimensional technology definitely present, and my Valentine definitely involved, though exact capacity still unclear. Chi nodded, processing this confirmation of their earlier discoveries. Yugi and Joey are bringing the Pharaoh up to speed. Tristan's checking with his security company contacts about any unusual client requests in the warehouse district. Rebecca's analyzing power consumption records for the locations we identified. Coordinated intelligence gathering, Naruto noted approvingly. Your friends adapted quickly to crisis response. We've had practice, Chi replied with a hint of wry humor. Different world-threatening situations, but similar principles. Naruto took a sip of coffee, allowing its warmth to combat the evening chill. Any specific concerns from Yugi or the Pharaoh? Quote, they're particularly troubled by Ishizu's potential connection to all this. The Pharaoh has worked closely with her in the past and finds it difficult to bail. She'd participate in dimensional destabilization. Chi hesitated before adding, he also mentioned sensing something unusual during your previous duels, a resonance between your chakra and the Sha Dao realm that shouldn't theoretically be possible. More connections between our worlds, Naruto mused. The boundaries between dimensions seem more permeable than anyone realized. They sat in thoughtful silence for several minutes, each processing the day's revelations while maintaining casual public appearance. Around them, late-night city life continued undisturbed, people returning from evening entertainment. Night shift workers beginning their commutes, the rhythmic urban pulse that remained blissfully unaware of dimensional threats looming on the horizon. Are you worried? Chi asked finally. About tomorrow's duel with Ishizu. Naruto considered the question seriously. Not about the duel itself, but about what it represents. Forced confrontation with someone who may have answers we need. He studied the steam rising from his cup. In my experience, public spectacle rarely provides opportunity for genuine understanding. Unless that's exactly what she wants, Chi suggested. A venue where neither of you can be easily silenced or disappeared. The insight was perceptive, highlighting again T's natural strategic thinking. Possible, Naruto acknowledged. Which means, I need to prepare for both combat and communication. Chi reached across the table, briefly touching his hand in what had become a familiar gesture of support. Whatever happens, you won't face it alone. We'll all be there. The simple promise carried profound meaning for someone who had grown up isolated and ostracized. Though Naruto had eventually earned recognition in his own world, Experian, Xing's such immediate acceptance and loyalty in this foreign dimension remained powerfully affecting. Thank you, he said simply, turning his hand to briefly clasp hers. Their eyes met across the small table, connection deepening beyond words in the gentle glow of cafe lighting. For a suspended moment, dimensional crises and tournament strategies receded, leaving only two people discovering Summit. Hing unexpected amid extraordinary circumstances. Chi broke the spell first, withdrawing her hand with faint color touching her cheeks. We should head back. Big day tomorrow. Naruto nodded, rising from the table while leaving payment for their drinks. As they walked through nighttime streets toward Chi's apartment, conversation shifted to practical preparations for the quarterfinal match. T.S. Hearing insights about Ishizu's known dueling style, Naruto outlining strategic approaches based on potential scenarios. The easy partnership that had developed between them reflected complementary strengths. Chi's understanding of this world's social dynamics and dueling culture balancing Naruto's combat experience and tactical thinking. Together, they navigated complexities neither could manage as effectively alone. By the time they reached Chi's apartment building, their strategy for tomorrow had crystallized into a coherent approach that accounted for multiple contingencies. As they rode the elevator in comfortable silence, Chi found herself studying Naruto's reflection in the polished doors, the way fatigue and determination balanced in his posture, the alert awareness that never fully diminished even in familiar surroundings. "You should take the bed tonight," she said as they entered the apartment. "The couch isn't great for proper rest before an important match. I've slept on cave floors during missions." Naruto countered with a slight smile. "Your couch is luxury by comparison." "Still," Chi insisted, "you need to be at your best tomorrow." Naruto recognized the genuine concern behind her offer. "How about neither of us takes the couch? We can both use the bed. Just for sleeping," he clarified quickly, seeing her startled expression. "I promise to stay on my side." The suggestion hung between them, simultaneously practical and intimate. After a moment's hesitation, Chi nodded. "That makes sense. We both need rest." The domestic normalcy of their bedtime preparations, taking turns in the bathroom, setting alarms, adjusting pillows, belied the extraordinary circumstances that had brought them together. As they settled under shared blankets with careful distance maintained between them, the strangeness of their situation struck Chi anew. A month ago, if someone had told me I'd be sharing my bed with an interdimensional ninja preparing for magical card game combat to prevent reality collapse. She murmured into the darkness. Naruto's quiet chuckle vibrated through the mattress. "Life rarely follows expected paths. In my world are yours." The Philos, optical observation from someone often perceived as impulsive and straightforward reminded T of the complexity beneath Naruto's surface, depths of wisdom earned through extraordinary experiences that his casual demeanor sometimes obscured. "Naruto," she whispered after a moment. I'm glad it was my apartment you landed near. When you came through the dimensional rift, I mean." The honesty of her statement hung in the darkness between them. After a moment, his hand found hers atop the blankets, fingers intertwining with gentle pressure. "So am I, T," he replied softly. "So am I." They fell asleep like that, hands connected while their bodies maintained respectful distance, a physical metaphor for their relationship, balanced between growing intimacy and the awareness of Naruto's inevitable return to his own dimension. Tournament day arrived with uncharacteristic meteorological drama, dark clouds massing over Domino City, occasional lightning illuminating their ominous formations while thunder rumbled at irregular intervals. Weather services attributed the sudden storm system to unusual atmospheric conditions, but those sensitized to magical energies recognized more significant implications. "The dimensional boundaries are thinning," Yugi observed grimly as their group gathered in the tournament venue's entrance hall, watching rain lash against massive windows. "Weather patterns are the first physical manifestation of bleed-through between realities. Rebecca's analysis confirms it," she added, checking messages on her phone. "Energy fluctuations have increased 40% overnight. Whatever the collectors are planning, it's accelerating environmental effects faster than predicted." Naruto absorbed this information with outward calm that masked internal strategic calculations. Accelerating timeline meant compressed response windows, increased probability of unforeseen complications, and greater necessity for decisive action. The quarterfinal TCH against Ishizu had transformed from tournament advancement to critical intelligence gathering opportunity. "Any word from Arya or her boundary wardens?" Joey asked, unusually serious given the circumstances. Naruto shook his head. "Nothing since our initial meeting. Either they're monitoring from distance or they have their own operational constraints. Or they're not as helpful as they presented themselves," Tristan suggested pragmatically. We proceed with available resources, Naruto decided, focusing on immediate priorities. The match starts in 30 minutes. Primary objective R. E-Main's information gathering while maintaining public persona. The Pharaoh, having taken control from Yugi given the situation's gravity, nodded agreement. Ashizu's motivations remain unclear, but our connection to ancient knowledge is unquestionable. Even if she serves competing interests, the duel may reveal crucial insights. Tournament staff bustled around them, making final preparations for the quarterfinal matches. Attendance had swelled significantly compared to earlier rounds, with spectators braving the storm to witness elite competition. Media presence had likewise increased, a crews establishing positions around feature arenas. They're setting up for broadcast, Chi noted with concern. Your match is receiving headliner treatment. Maximum visibility, Naruto observed. Limiting options for both sides. As the group strategized, a distinctive figure approached through the crowd. My Valentine, elegant despite the weather in a signature purple outfit, umbrella folded at her side. Her expression revealed nothing as she stopped before them. Interesting weather for a tournament, she observed casually. Almost supernatural, wouldn't you say? The loaded comment hung between them, charged with potential meanings. Naruto maintained neutral expression while assessing her demeanor for hints about her true allegiance. Just rain, he replied evenly. Though timing is convenient for indoor activities. Quote, Mai's lips curved in a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Indeed, convenient timing seems prevalent lately. Her gaze shifted to T briefly before returning to Naruto. Your quarterfinal against Ashizu has generated significant interest. Many important people watching. The emphasis on important people confirmed Naruto's suspicion that this match had been orchestrated for purposes beyond tournament advancement. I don't duel for audiences, he responded. Just for my own path. Something flickered across Mai's expression, approval, respect. Before her professional mask returned. A commendable attitude. Nevertheless, she hesitated, then continued with subtle intensity, be careful which cards you play today. Some combinations might reveal more than you intend. With that cryptic warning, she inclined her head slightly before departing, moving through the crowd with practiced grace that discouraged pursuit. What was that about? Joey questioned once she was beyond earshot. Warning, Naruto interpreted. Though whether for my benefit or as delivered instruction isn't clear. Chi frowned thoughtfully. She specifically meant ion card combinations revealing unintended information. Could she mean your chakra effects on certain cards? Possible, the Pharaoh agreed. Your energy interactions with dual monsters have grown more pronounced with each match. Perhaps the collectors are monitoring these effects for research purposes. Tournament officials announced final preparation for quarterfinal matches, directing competitors toward their assigned arenas. As Naruto gathered his deck and activated his dual disc, each friend offered brief encouragement. Joey's enthusiastic back slap, Tristan's steady thumbs up, the Pharaoh's dignified nod of confidence. Chi's support came last, a quick embrace that carried emotion beyond words. Remember what we discussed, she murmured near his ear. Patterns and timing. Naruto nodded. Their strategic conversations from the previous night crystallized into clear tactical approach. As they separated, a final shared glance conveyed what verbal exchanges couldn't, trust, concern. And something deeper developing between them. The central arena stood elevated above surrounding areas, spotlights focusing on its polished surface while camera operators established optimal angles. Spectators filled viewing areas to capacity, their collective energy creating palpable atmosphere despite the storm raging beyond the venue's walls. Ashizu Ishtar already waited on the platform. Her traditional Egyptian attire creating dramatic contrast with the tournament's modern setting. The millennium necklace gleamed at her throat, catching light with hypnotic intensity. Her expression remained serene, almost otherworldly in its detachment. Naruto ascended opposite steps, maintaining measured pace and neutral expression despite heightened awareness. As he took position across from Ashizu, their eyes met with mutual recognition that transcended ordinary competition. Two individuals connected to powers beyond conventional understanding, meeting in ceremonial combat disguised as tournament play. Naruto Uzumaki, Ashizu greeted, her melodious accent carrying easily across the arena. The warrior from another dimension. This meeting has been foreseen for many cycles. Has it? Naruto responded evenly. Buy your Millennium Necklace, or other interested parties. A hint of approval touched her lips. Direct questioning. Refreshing. She activated her dual disc with practiced movement. Some answers can only be found through conflict, Dragon Sage. Let us begin. The tournament referee approached, explaining standard quarterfinal rules with rehearsed efficiency before stepping back. Duelists ready. Begin. Duel. They declared simultaneously, life point counters initializing at 4,000. As challenger, I shall begin, Ashizu announced, drawing her opening hand with ceremonial precision. I place one monster in defense position, and 2 cards face down. Holographic representations materialized before her. Turn end. Naruto drew his first card, quickly assessing options while maintaining awareness of the unusual circumstances. Ashizu's opening was conservative, standard protection while assessing opponent capabilities. Real communication would begin with his response. I summon Wind-style ninja in attack mode, Naruto declared, placing the card on his disc. A shinobi materialized in light armor adorned with wind symbols. His special ability activates up. On summoning, I can examine one face-down card on your field. The ninja seemed to vanish momentarily before appearing beside one of Ashizu's concealed cards. The holographic card briefly revealed its Elphas, Exchange of Spirit, a powerful trap that would swap deck and graveyard contents. Interesting choice, Naruto observed as his ninja returned to his field. Not what I expected in a traditional Egyptian deck. Expectations limit perception, Ashizu replied cryptically. What seems familiar may conceal the unforeseen. The loaded exchange confirmed their duel would operate on multiple levels, moves and countermoves conveying information beyond game mechanics. Naruto continued his turn, activating a spell card that enhanced his ninja's offensive capabilities before launching a direct attack against Ashizu's face-down monster. The concealed creature revealed itself as Gravekeeper's Spy, a robed figure who immediately summoned another Gravekeeper from Ashizu's deck. The defensive strategy was effective, absorbing Naruto's attack while establishing field presence. Guardians of Ancient Tombs, Naruto noted, recognizing the archetype. Protecting secrets from disturbance. Some secrets protect themselves, Ashizu countered, a meaningful glance toward the Millennium Necklace accompanying her words. Others require conscious guardianship across generations. Their verbal exchanges continued as the duel progressed, each game move paralleled by cryptic statements carrying additional meaning. Spectators interpreted the dialogue as standard dueling banter, but T and the others recognized the coded communication occurring between combatants. Ashizu's strategy revealed itself gradually, a sophisticated combination of Gravekeeper monsters and support cards designed to control field presence while building toward powerful ritual summons. Her dueling style embodied patience and foresight, each move seemingly anticipated turns in advance. Naruto countered with his signature unpredictability. Ninja cards creating unexpected tactical options that repeatedly disrupted Ashizu's carefully constructed sequences. The clash of opposing philosophies, preordained destiny versus a self-determined action, manifested through their dueling styles. By mid-duel, both competitors had established strong field presence, life points relatively balanced while tension mounted with each exchange. Throughout, Naruto carefully modulated his chakra interaction with the cards, mindful of Mai's cryptic warning about revealing too much through energy signatures. The dynamic changed dramatically when Ashizu activated a ritual spell card named Ceremony of Dimensional Guardians, a card unknown in standard tournament registries. I sacrifice 2 Gravekeepers to summon Ancient Boundary Protector, she declared, her monsters dissolving into swirling energy that coalesced into a robed figure wielding a staff topped with the now familiar 9-pointed star symbol. This guardian exists between realms, maintaining the walls between worlds. The summoned creature radiated unusual energy that Naruto's chakra sense immediately detected, not standard holographic projection, but something incorporating actual dimensional resonance. The monster's appearance triggered murmurs among spectators who recognized its deviation from standard card libraries. That's not a registered card, tournament referee observed with concern. Exhibition exemption, Ashizu responded smoothly, producing documentation that silenced further objections. Approved for demonstration purposes, Naruto studied the materialized guardian. Recognizing the implications. Interesting choice. A card that shouldn't exist in this tournament, representing entities that operate beyond conventional boundaries. Some cards transcend ordinary categorization, a Shizu confirmed. Just as certain duelists transcend dimensional limitations. The summoned boundary protector initiated its effect, creating a Phi-Eld wide aura that subtly altered the dimensional fabric within the arena. Naruto felt his chakra responding to the shift, Dragon Sage energy stirring more actively than it had since his arrival in this world. Your guardian creates interesting resonance patterns, he observed, allowing a controlled thread of chakra to interact with the field. Almost like it's trying to stabilize something. Perception worthy of a sage. A Shizu acknowledged. The boundary protector's primary function is maintenance of cosmic equilibrium. When dimensions threaten to bleed together, guardians appear to restore balance. The philosophical discussion continued alongside escalating game mechanics, each exchange revealing additional layers of meaning. A Shizu's unusual cards consistently referenced dimensional boundaries, cosmic balance, and guardian responsibilities, a pattern too deliberate to be coincidental. From the spectator area, T watched with growing understanding. She's not just dueling, she's teaching. She murmured to the pharaoh, using the match to convey information she couldn't share directly. Indeed, the ancient spirit confirmed. A Shizu operates under constraints we don't fully comprehend. This public forum provides limited protection for communication that might otherwise be prevented. The duel's pivotal moment arrived when a Shizu activated her boundary protector's ultimate effect. Sacrificing significant life points to summon a second extraordinary creature, Dragon of Dimensional Crossroads, a massive serpentine entity whose scaled coils appeared to extend beyond the arena's physical boundaries. Behold the Keeper of Paths Between Worlds, a Shizu intoned, her formal cadence suggesting ceremonial significance. Neither fully of this dimension nor entirely separate, the Crossroads dragon maintains the integrity of reality itself. The holographic dragon materialized with unprecedented realism, its scales shimmering with iridescent energy while its eyes fix on Naruto with unmistakable intelligence. Around the arena, spectators gasped at the projection's quality, assuming advanced tournament technology rather than supernatural interaction. Naruto felt immediate, powerful resonance with his Dragon Sage chakra, stronger than any card connection he had experienced previously. The dragon's appearance seemed to trigger something within him, dormant GY patterns awakening in response to its presence. Your move, Dragon Sage, a Shizu prompted, the formal address clearly intentional. How will you respond to the Guardian of Boundaries? The loaded question carried significance beyond game mechanics. Naruto recognized the symbolic crossroads represented by this moment, a choice between defensive reaction or proactive engagement with the very CES that had brought him to this dimension. By embracing my own nature, Naruto decided, drawing his next card with focused intent. I activate the spell card Dragon Sage Meditation. The card, one of Solomon's gifts from his rare collection, generated a swirling energy field around Naruto's field. As it activated, he deliberately channeled a measured stream of Dragon Sage chakra into the effect, creating visible resonance with a Shizu's dimensional creatures. This allows me to synchronize my ninja and dragon cards, Naruto explained, both for spectators and to acknowledge the symbolic significance. Creating harmony between seemingly opposing forces. The resulting energy interaction manifested visibly, azure chakra flowing between cards as Naruto's field transformed. His ninja monsters gained subtle draconic characteristics while maintaining their original forms, power increasing through synergistic combination rather than replacement. Fascinating adaptation, a Shizu observed with evident approval. Not domination of opposing forces, but integration and balance. The duel's final phase unfolded with increasing energy interactions, each move generating visible resonance that spectators attributed to advanced holographic technology. Naruto and a Shizu both recognized the reality, actual dimensional energies responding to their symbolic combat, ancient forces awakening through modern representation. Throughout, Naruto carefully maintained control of his chakra flow, allowing enough interaction to communicate understanding of a Shizu's message without revealing his full capabilities to watching eyes. The delicate balance required precision gained through years of shinobi chakra training. The decisive moment arrived when Naruto activated his ultimate combinatio. Dragon Sage Warrior synchronized with Shadow Clone technique to create multiple empowered entities on his field. The resulting energy matrix overwhelmed Ishizu's defensive positions, reducing her Li Fei points to 0 in a carefully orchestrated sequence that demonstrated mastery rather than dominance. As holographic projections faded, Ishizu bowed formally to Naruto, acknowledging his victory with ceremonial respect. Well fought, Dragon Sage. Your understanding grows appropriately, as does my awareness of watching eyes, Naruto replied meaningfully, returning the bow with equal formality. The tournament referee approached, declaring Naruto's advancement to semifinals while spectators applauded appreciatively. Camera operators captured the competitor's handshake for broadcast, interpreting the exchange as standard sportsmanship rather than continuation of coded communication. As they clasped hands, Ishizu leaned slightly forward, her voice pitched for Naruto's ears alone. The museum, midnight, the true altar chamber, come prepared for revelation. Before Naruto could respond, she released his hand and turned away, departing the arena with dignified poise that discouraged pursuit or further conversation. The invitation, or warning, hung in the air between them, invisible to spectators but profound in its implications. Chi and the others approached as Naruto descended from the platform, offering congratulations that served as cover for more substantive exchange. She was definitely communicating something beyond the duel, Chi observed quietly amid celebratory gestures. Those cards weren't standard tournament registry. Boundary Protector, Dimensional Crossroads Dragon. Naruto named the key elements while maintaining casual demeanor for surrounding spectators. Direct references to exactly what we've been investigating. And midnight invitation to the museum, the pharaoh added, having observed the final exchange. Where collector facilities supposedly operate beneath the exhibition hall. Joey cracked his knuckles with characteristic enthusiasm. Sounds like a trap to me. Or genuine opportunity for answers, Naruto countered thoughtfully. Ishizu's dueling strategy wasn't aggressive, it was revelatory. Designed to demonstrate rather than defeat. Either way, you're not going alone, T insisted, her tone brooking no argument. Whatever's happening at the museum tonight, we face it together. The determination in her expression, mirrored in the others' faces, reminded Naruto powerfully of missions with his Konoha comrades. Different world, different circumstances, but the same fundamental loyalty transcending rational risk assessment. Together, he agreed, genuine warmth suffusing the acknowledgement. But with appropriate precautions. As they moved toward the tournament exit, discussing strategy for the midnight rendezvous, Naruto noticed my Valentine watching from a secluded observation point. Their eyes met briefly across the distance. Her expression unreadable before she turned and disappeared into service corridors. Outside, the storm had intensified, lightning splitting dark skies with increasing frequency while rain fell in sheets that distorted the cityscape into impressionistic patterns. The weather's unnatural progression mirrored the accelerating dimensional instability their investigations had uncovered. Reality bleeding through, Naruto observed grimly as they sheltered beneath the venue's covered entrance. The boundaries are weakening faster than predicted. Which means whatever the collectors have planned is approaching critical stage, the pharaoh concluded. Tonight's museum meeting may represent our last opportunity for crucial information before events spiral beyond control. As they separated to prepare for the midnight operation, Joey and Tristan gathering surveillance equipment, the pharaoh consulting with Solomon about ancient Egyptian temple layouts, Rebecca analyzing dimensional fluctuation patterns. Chi accompanied Naruto back to her apartment. They walked in weighted silence, shared umbrella creating intimate space amid the downpour. You connected with those dragon cards during the duel, Chi observed as they navigated rain-slicked sidewalks. I could see it, even from the spectator area. Something resonating between you and the holograms. Naruto nodded, unconsciously flexing his right hand where phantom scales had briefly manifested during peak energy exchange. The Dragon Sage chakra responded to Ishizu's dimensional creatures. Almost like recognition. Quote, do you think she knows more about your abilities than she's revealed? Definitely, Naruto confirmed. The question is whether that knowledge serves constructive purpose or something else entirely. They reached T's building, both soaked despite the umbrella's protection as gusting wind had driven rain sideways through their minimal shelter. In the elevator, T studied Naruto's reflection in polished doors. Noting the subtle changes in his demeanor since their first meeting, increased comfort in this dimension balanced against growing determination to understand his purpose here. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, catching her observation. "How quickly everything has changed," T answered honestly. 2 weeks ago, dimensional boundaries and cosmic guardians were abstract concepts. Now they're determining our evening plans. The observation drew a smile from Naruto despite the situation's gravity. Life rarely provides advance warning for its most significant turns. In my experience, you adapt to the path revealed or get left behind. The philosophical perspective, delivered casually while rainwater dripped from his blonde hair onto the elevator floor, highlighted Agai. And the depth beneath Naruto's straightforward exterior. Wisdom earned through extraordinary experiences, carried lightly but accessible when needed. In T's apartment, they changed from rain-soaked sea, clothing and prepared equipment for the midnight operation, communication devices borrowed from Kaiba Corp through Makuba's clandestine assistance, basic medical supplies, and in Naruto's case, restored. Shinobi tools including specialized kunai and paper seals adapted for this dimension's different energy patterns. As evening deepened toward midnight, they reviewed tactical approaches while Maintai Ning outward calm that belied the operation's potential significance. Whatever awaited at the museum, trap, revelation, or something between, would likely alter their understanding of the dimensional situation irreversibly. "Ready?" Naruto asked as the appointed hour approached. Chi nodded, determination evident in her squared shoulders and focused gaze. "Ready." Together they departed into the storm-lashed night, moving toward ancient secrets hidden beneath modern appearances, guided by cryptic invitation from a woman who straddled worlds much as Naruto himself did, neither fully of one dimension nor entirely separate. Maintaining balance along boundaries increasingly threatened by forces seeking to reshape reality itself. Behind them, visible only through Naruto's lingering chakra perception, ephemeral dragon forms briefly materialized in the apartment, dimensional echoes responding to the awakening dragon sage energy that had activated during the day's pivotal duel. The boundaries continued thinning, worlds bleeding together through weakening dimensional walls, countdown to convergence accelerating with each passing hour. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.